Coming up now is another sparkling Two Mics podcast.
So do you want me to prove to you that that is a lorry backing up there?
Well, I thought you were using it as an analogy, you know, saying that, oh, well, he's going backwards now on the confident predictions he made about getting them into Europe and all that, and now that isn't going to happen. That's what I assumed you're saying.
Well, why don't you just have another listen to it? Have another listen to the noise.
Right, OK, let's listen.
That is also what I have said in former press conferences.
That's not a lorry.
What is it?
So for
that
me,
is the beeping of the satellite transmission.
It's difficult
the satellite
to
transmission.
understand.
Yeah. Well, where do you think it comes from? Where do you think, do you think that sound comes through a telephone line or something?
Well, it's not doing it live. It's not coming through a satellite. No, it was recorded and it was sent down the line, not by satellite.
Yes, I know that, but when it was recorded and sent down, the actual sound, the phonetics, right, are bounced off a satellite into our studios.
You think?
And that beeping was an intergalactic beeping, not a lorry. There's nothing to do. That was no earthly lorry. That was an intergalactic...
so how come we don't hear that beeping on every other clip that gets sent down from Old Trafford? Well, you haven't got an answer for that one, have you?
Louis Van Gaal. Because sometimes it gets trapped in mid-space. I mean, only for a 1/100th of a second, which is about the time it takes Lewis Hamilton to beat his driving partner Nico Rosberg to first place in the Singapore Grand Prix. Think of that 1/100th of a second.
I didn't think Rosberg finished.
Rosberg didn't, but I'm talking about practice.
Well, he didn't beat him by 1,000th of a second.
He did in practice to get onto the grid, didn't he? And to get pole position on the grid.
Yes.
Don't you follow these things?
Not really, no.
No, well, you should keep up and follow them because that's what you're supposed to be doing.
But he didn't beat him in the Grand Prix by 1,000th of a second. That's my point.
No,
Rosberg
I didn't say that. I said if you'd have listened, I said he beat him in practice to get ahead on the grid.
I see.
To get pole position on the grid.
Well, I'm not convinced.
And it was by 100th of a second, not 1,000. But what I'm saying is that audio gets trapped in midair. That audio is bounced into these studios from a satellite which spins just about over, let me just think now, the position of the satellites in the world.
Tropic of Cancer?
No, the Indian Ocean. Over the Indian Ocean, and then comes in here, and it got trapped in the middle. There was no lorry around. Ask anybody who was at that presser.
So you think that noise has been added in?
No, I think it's actually infiltrated
like a ghost almost.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, not a ghost. I mean,
I've never heard it before, though. That's why I was remarking on it.
But I mean, how do you think that noise of a lorry could have got into that press conference? It was in a sealed room.
Well, I don't know how sealed the room is.
In a big building. What do you think they did? Do you think they opened the window and said to the guy who's looking after the trash, hey, by the way, pal, could you just back up here? We need a bit of sound effect.
It's possible.
We need a bit of sound effect for Louis Van Gaal. I don't think so.
It's very possible. But anyway, we're going to talk about Manchester United coming up a little bit later on. We're also going to talk about Everton, because you've been trying to avoid talking about Everton all week.
No, I haven't.
Because not only did they have a bad weekend, they had a bad midweek as well. And, of course, they've got the big Merseyside derby coming up. Steve Nicholls going to be talking to us. And I'm sure you would have heard Kenny Dalglish on TalkSport a little bit earlier on, saying that he was delighted to see that, Liverpool football is alive and well, and both teams are really doing OK. But as long as the Reds stay in front of the Blues, he said he's happy. What do you make of that?
Who was Kenny talking to?
He was on Drive Show, I believe.
Oh, really? OK, that's excellent. So I've been talking to Adrian or Darren or whatever.
Or even both of them.
Or even both of them, that's right. Yeah, well, OK, well, that's a sensible take on it. I mean, this is an intriguing Merseyside derby coming up, because both Everton and Liverpool, who started the season with huge confidence and huge expectations, have hit some sort of malaise in the early weeks of the season.
They have.
Liverpool beaten twice.
Both probably troubled by the absence of Sturridge for Liverpool and Barkley for Everton, though, right?
Well, it shouldn't matter. You should have squads now strong enough, in my view, strong enough to be able to say, well, that's not going to affect us. We can get on with it. We've got players to cover. Everton have got some great players. McGeady was a player that Mr. Martinez particularly liked the look of, and let's face it, he's already displayed one or two very, very fine techniques. And when you lose Barkley, people like him are supposed to be able to
step up to the plate
and paper over the cracks.
Well, you might remember when I said to you,
two great cliches.
Yeah, two great cliches in one sentence. You might remember you poo-pooed me when I said the other week that I didn't think Everton had enough firepower to score enough goals.
Well, they've scored lots of goals.
Have they?
They've scored lots of goals. The problem is they've conceded too many. You're honestly, Mike, look at your facts.
How many goals has Lukaku scored?
Lukaku has scored one.
One goal?
Yeah.
How many games?
4.
Yeah, it's not exactly prolific, is it?
5 if you include the
not exactly prolific.
The Swansea game, which was in the League Cup. No, what I'm saying is we've conceded more goals than any other club in the division, but we've scored in every game. Scored 2 in the first game, didn't we? Against Leicester, 2 against Arsenal.
Didn't score any against Swansea.
3 against Chelsea. Well, that was in the League Cup, wasn't it? 2 against Crystal Palace. So we're scoring lots of goals. It's just that we're conceding too many. John Stones, I think, has been a little bit overawed by the responsibility heaped on his shoulders. Maybe Sylvain Distin has just got to that age now where, it's starting to tell.
Yeah.
And I think old Jags is going through a bit of a crisis of confidence following what was, for him, a pretty miserable World Cup campaign in Brazil. That's my reading of the situation, Mike, and I don't think we need to go any further.
Well, we'll talk some more about it when we talk to Steve Nichols.
Well, you can talk to yourself about it.
I'm sure he can analyse what's wrong with Everton.
Steve Nichols, a good man.
He's a very good man.
He'll talk
indeed.
sense.
Now,
He'll
coming
talk
up, we're
sense
going to be
me.
talking. I don't know whether you saw the story yesterday in The Sun about Wayne Rooney and Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson revealed that basically the England boys, when they're all together, like to give themselves general knowledge quizzes to pass the time, which I found quite a refreshing change from what used to be the case, where they would all be playing cards and losing huge amounts of money, gambling all over the place.
Well, OK, that's absolutely true.
I mean, when you were at the FA, they weren't giving themselves general knowledge quizzes, were they?
No. Now, under...
Well, you weren't giving them, I hope, anyway.
No. Under Sven, they used to do a lot of gambling on the bus.
Yeah.
And there was one player in particular who was an England regular and actually a very distinguished England player in terms of his record, who fell out with another player because he won 30 grand on the coach. But that was
just on the coach.
Hang on, not even a coach ride from sort of north to south. This was on the coach from the training ground back to the hotel. I mean, I'm talking about 15 minutes.
Right.
When England was still based at
they play poker
at Bisham Abbey. I don't know what they play. I don't think it's poker because that takes too long.
Three-card brag's a quick game.
Three-card brag and blackjack, I think, are the games they play.
Yeah.
And the player who lost the 30 grand, by the way, was a younger player than the player I'm talking about. And he wasn't earning that. I mean, nothing like... He wasn't in that much a month, you know what I mean, in those days. And it caused a terrible problem because the poor kid was bankrupt and all that kind of stuff. But the player who actually won it refused to back down on the principle of a gambler's debt.
Yeah.
You have to pay your gambler's debt. If the kid's big enough to play for England, he's big enough to get involved in the in the cards on the coach.
I have some sympathy for him.
Yeah, and if he loses that money, he's going to pay it. And in the end, the club had to settle it to stop a fearsome row. Yeah. Now, going back further to the Don Revie days, Don Revie produced all these files, and the players used to go mad because they were sent to bed to read the files, which were in-depth analysis of every player in the opposition team that they're playing tomorrow, and used to bore them to rigid, bore them stiff, and all that kind of stuff. And what happened was, in order to make them sort of feel relaxed and able to read these files and went to bed, Don Revie introduced bingo. And
bingo on the bus.
No, in the hotel. Right. So after dinner, they ought to file into a lounge and sit there and play bingo. And the other one they played was, I think it was Ludo. Is it Ludo a game?
That's like a board game.
Board game, yeah. They had to play Ludo, the board game, to get their minds straight and all that kind of stuff.
Incredible.
So all very odd about how players prepare. But anyway, of course, I saw the story about Wayne Rooney. I see everything that goes on, Mike. I am.
Well, I'm glad about that because we're going to give you.
What's the word?
Omnipresent. Is the word you're thinking of. Not omnipotent. That means all powerful. No, omnipresent is what you mean.
Amorphous.
You're amorphous, are you?
I'm amorphous. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, really? Yeah. So you don't know what amorphous means?
You're an amorphous mass.
You don't know what amorphous means?
You're an amorphous mass.
Amorphous means seeing, hearing and absorbing everything. It
like
means,
a blob?
No. Amorphous means of all knowledge.
Does it?
That's the Latin literal translation. I am of all knowledge. As far as you're concerned, I'm of all knowledge.
Yeah.
I might not be of all knowledge to, a guy who designs rockets for the Americans or something like that.
He might know a bit more about rocket design.
See the power of those aeroplanes that are going in now to strike in Iraq and Syria. I mean, it is frightening, the power of these aeroplanes. One of those planes could power a city of 20,000 people on a 1-hour flight and things like that.
I know. It
quite
is.
astonishing.
It is frightening. Why are you changing the subject? Because you've got a word wrong.
No. Amorphous is... I know exactly what amorphous means. I've been using it since I was 14.
Well, it says shapeless, formless, unformed, unshaped, unstructured, indeterminate, indefinite, vague, nebulous.
No.
All of which you are.
No, don't be ridiculous. What it means is that nothing escapes me. Nothing escapes me, OK?
Nothing escapes you. Well, I'm very glad because you'll have an opportunity to prove that later on in the show. We're going to give you a general knowledge quiz a la Wayne Rooney and the other England players.
General knowledge? Why general knowledge? knowledge.
We've just been talking about it because that's what the England players do.
No. Just because every expert subject that you've quizzed me on, I've managed to fool you on. You get away with it, with the audience by, pretending you're looking over at me and saying, "What are you reading there?" I'm just trying to make out I cheat in every test.
Cheat.
I don't
you
cheat.
still only get 3 out of 10.
I don't cheat. I've never cheated. And you're a
we won't be able to cheat on this one because it's general knowledge.
You're a damn bounder. Yeah, well, that's fine. Bring it on, man. Bring it on. I don't care.
We will.
But what you'll do is...
Have you seen the time, by the way?
Yeah, you will...
Look into the light.
You'll change the question. As soon as I get it right, you change the question.
Well, when you get one right, I'll let you know. This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the two mics. Loads more coming next. TalkSport Extra Time. We are the two mics. You might recognise that piece of music. There will be some musical interludes throughout the course of the show. What are you doing to the microphone now?
I'm just trying to straighten it up so that...
Why do you always have to straighten up the microphone? I mean, everybody else that comes in here sits there,
Yeah.
uses the microphone quite happily. Whenever you come in, something always goes wrong.
I so care for our listeners that I want all the resonance of my voice to fully go
Well, you've already
out.
been on for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I know, but I listened to myself during the break and I thought, I'm not sure they're getting the full impact. So I readjust the mic because, you see, technically, Mike, I know a lot more about the output of a radio.
Well, as you've just established by your fascinating description of satellite technology.
Yeah. What are you laughing at? What are you laughing
because nobody believes your story. Right. I can tell you.
Well, how
you can find us, by the way, on at the two mics. Yeah, how about this? From somebody saying,
how on earth
Michael,
do you think it gets in?
Michael says, the two mics, absolute quality, intergalactic beeping. Ha, ha, ha. Has Parry been abducted again?
No, I haven't been abducted. I'm just trying to tell people what's going on in the world. Do you know what? Sometimes I just despair when I try to input information into people's lives, when I try to input information to your life, to our producer's life, to the lives of those who work here at TalkSport. Quite often it's just met with a risible sort of attitude. Yeah, risible attitude, risible attitude towards my efforts to improve people's lives. And I tell you what, if it goes on for much longer, I'm not so sure that I'm going to offer this sort of knowledge to people because I don't know what you're laughing at. Because
maybe you should bring out like a Christmas annual. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Porky's Christmas Annual of Facts.
You see, I don't give up
It'd
because
be a very small book.
What was it? What was it? Jesus said from the cross, "Forgive them, Lord, for they know." No, that's a terrible thing to say.
Eh?
That honestly, that to me is what's the word when you're mocking religion? What's it called?
Blasphemy.
Blasphemy. That's blasphemous, and I'm going to gloss over that and ignore it for your sake because that can't have done you any good in the afterlife.
In the afterlife,
yeah.
Are we worried about that bit later then?
Yeah. I mean, what I'm saying here is I think Jesus said from the cross, "Forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do."
Yeah.
And I have that attitude towards people who try to take the mickey out of me.
Right.
I forgive them for they know not what they do because they simply haven't got the brain power.
You've got a lot in common with them, haven't you?
No, I haven't.
Those who know not what they do.
No, and I'm not getting into that. No. The point is I use my brain power to try and improve people's lives, to help them educate themselves, to help fulfil their areas of ignorance in their heads. And if the result is that I get a load of stick back, ill-informed criticism, I just have to walk through it. I just walk through it.
Well, as I was trying to say,
it's like it's a ring of fire.
As I was trying to say before you started adjusting yourself there,
right?
Downton Abbey.
My mic, if you don't
Downton Abbey was the theme of the music that came out of the break there.
Great,
and the new season of Downton Abbey just started. We
started
talked about it the other day.
Fantastic.
Did you watch it on Sunday?
Yeah, I did. I think it's losing a little bit of its impact.
I think
to be honest,
it's trying to be a bit too clever now, isn't it?
I think it's trying to be a bit too different, which is unnecessary. I mean, there was one scene in which one of the footmen actually went into a lady's bedroom.
Yeah.
She was a visitor to Downton Abbey.
Well, she came there for one reason and one reason alone.
To have sex with one of the footmen. Yeah. So the footman
Which
duly...
I don't think the show needs, does it?
No, it doesn't. That's exactly what I'm saying. So, and the footman, duly obliged, went up and said to Rob Collier-James, who is the wicked Thomas, the wicked footman.
Wicked footman, yeah.
Wicked footman.
I can't work him out, actually. I don't know what he wants.
No, I don't either.
Well, I mean, what's he wicked for?
Well,
he's just wicked.
Yeah, well, he wants to advance himself, doesn't he?
He's not very good at it, though,
he wants to be the butler. Because, I mean, 1 minute he's rescuing Lady Edith or somebody from a fire, and the next he's plotting, the downfall of one of his colleagues and all that. But anyway, point of the story is Rob Collier-James says to this guy, should you really be doing this? Like trying to warn him.
Yeah.
And the guy says, I can't resist the temptation, like most of us, when there's a noble, I mean, I think a noble lady's are very sexy.
That was Duckface, wasn't it, as well, from Four Weddings and a Funeral?
Yes, it was. That's right. Yeah, and the next scene you see, because there was a fire in Lady Edith's bedroom, fire, and Lord, what's his name? Lord Downton.
Yeah.
No, it's not Downton. What's
I
his
don't
name?
know
Lord
what his
who? Lord.
I can't remember.
No, I can't now, and I've watched it all in all their series. He dashes into the bedroom to warn everybody and finds the footman
In flagrante
well,
delicto.
I would say rogering the
That's a
lady,
bit harsh.
rogering the lady visitor, and
Lord Grantham. I'm told.
Lord Grantham, of course, that's what it is, and of course this causes such a scandal. That when everybody's outside because the fire's been put out by the local fire brigade. By the way, do you see the truck they arrived in? It was like the Keystone Cops. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
But before they arrived, he's trying to put it out with buckets of sand.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, which is
Because I suppose in those days, if you had a fire,
that's what
you
you
could
had.
lose everything because you didn't have a fire extinguisher. You didn't have,
You're absolutely right. Yeah. So they're outside, aren't they? What was it?
Lady Muck goes up to him and says, I think I'd best leave before the morning.
No, I'll leave before breakfast.
Yeah.
I'll leave before breakfast. And then Lord Grantham instructs Carson or somebody, the butler, to sack the guy who was doing the old, humper wumper, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so that was lost over. But I agree with you, they don't need that.
But so they've introduced sex to it, and then they introduced this woman, this strange-looking woman who was a Labour Party sort of activist teacher.
That's right, yeah.
Because they're obviously trying to make out that, this is the beginning of the change of the social system of Britain, right?
The first Labour government under Ramsay MacDonald, was it? Yeah, has just come to power, and she's saying it's great. Now everybody wonders what's going to happen next, because, of course, the prediction was in those days, because we're now talking about just 7 years after the Russian Revolution, that once the Labour government came to power in this country, mobs of working-class people would be parading around the streets and drag, the aristocracy out of their homes, out of their beds, murder them.
By the Bolsheviks,
By the Bolsheviks, murder them, take over their homes and turn their homes into, like, communes for the sick, the needy and the poor.
Libraries full of Karl Marx books.
Yeah, absolutely. But you see, this is what I think about the stage Downton Abbey's got to now. If we had retained the class system that Downton Abbey portrays, certainly in the earlier episodes, before the Russian Revolution, and
when people knew their place.
When people knew their place, Mike.
Well, you would have been downstairs. That was for sure.
No.
Why do you have such a high kind of brow view of yourself? I mean, you grew up in a working class house. You grew up in a poor part of northwest England.
How do you class working class? Working class.
Well, your dad was working class, wasn't he?
Everybody's working class if they go out to work.
Rubbish.
A lawyer's working class if he goes out to work and goes into an office and works, isn't he?
Under the rules. Well, hang on, under the rules of the old
working class.
Well, there are differences. I think, generally speaking, working class is a manual.
Say what you mean.
Manual labour job. That's what generally is considered to be working class.
I'd consider that blue collar then. Okay. Blue collar.
Call it blue collar if you want.
You've got a blue shirt on today. You're blue collar.
Yeah, I've got a blue shirt. You're wearing the same shirt you always wear.
No, I'm not.
Kind of off black, sort of grey.
What
Looks
are you
like
on
it's been in
about?
a washing machine a few too many times.
Excuse me, this is one of my better ones, which I reserve for better occasions. Not that working with you is a better occasion, but I'll gloss over that one.
No, but the point is that you somehow... Well, I don't see how you think that you would have been anything other than a serf.
Oh, I know exactly what I'd have done.
Abbey.
No, what I'd have done
What
in
would you
those
have
days.
done?
Right, I'll tell you what I'd have done, OK? So I'd have, first of all, said, right, let's get in on the new technology. Remember, Mike, I'm the man who first spotted the opportunity, and you followed, to move from a declining industry, newspapers and print, into a growth industry, radio, right?
Yeah.
OK?
Well, we were both given very little choice in that.
Well, not at all. You grabbed my coattails and followed me into this,
really?
OK? So I would have recognised the new technology around in those days. I would immediately have gone out and worked in a bakery 20 hours a day to get the money to learn to drive a car, because you didn't need a driving test in those days.
So you could have become a chauffeur then?
Well, first of all, a chauffeur, but then guess what I would have done?
Bus driver?
No. When I realised...
Ambulance driver?
No, listen to me. When I realised that actually 6 or 8 times a day, the chauffeur... What are you laughing at? I haven't even told you yet. What are you laughing at?
I can't tell you.
Why can't you? Why can't you just...
It's just an idea that came to me.
Well, oh, yeah, really?
You could have ended up driving a hearse. It's just been suggested to me.
Actually, I've got a view on that as well a bit later on. What I'm saying is, when I would have realised, being the baker's boy on the baker's van, that the chauffeur at Downton has to go to the station 6 or 8 times a day to pick people and bring them back, I would have started the first taxi service in this country.
Would you?
I would now own...
You wouldn't have been able to afford to buy a car, though.
Yeah, I would, yeah. I'd have worked it out. I'd have gone and borrowed a car from somebody who doesn't use it very often and leased it off them, paid them a
How much do you think you were paid when you worked in a bakery in those days?
Oh, well, you see...
why did you think you're the first person that would have thought of doing this?
Yeah, I would be the first person. Then I'd start a taxi service, and then I would have grown from 1 car to 2 cars to 4 cars to 6 cars. I'd have become a mogul.
You live in a complete fantasy world,
I'd have become a mogul, a self-made man, because that's what the class system's all about. I thought the class system in Downton was excellent for 2 reasons. Firstly...
Well, I haven't seen anyone becoming a taxi mogul.
Firstly, they're not as bright as me. They're not as bright as me.
Well, maybe you should contact the writers and tell them to get one in.
First of all, they were looked after in, good style, downstairs, fed, watered, clothed, roof over their heads and all that kind of stuff. So that's looking after those less fortunate than yourself.
In serfdom.
Second, not serfdom at all.
Yeah,
it's a job, and it's called trickle-down economics. Now, you don't know anything about economics, but I do.
No, of course you do. We've given you quizzes on economics. You haven't done very well.
Well, you didn't ask me the proper questions. Now, Ronald Reagan was a master of trickle-down...
He wasn't an expert on it either.
He was. He was a master of trickle-down economics.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes. He's Mike Parry. I am Mike Graham, of course. It's a massive weekend of Premier League football coming up, and much as Mike Parry does not want to discuss it, I'm afraid we're now going to talk about Everton, because they've got the big Merseyside derby coming up against Liverpool. And, of course, we're going to talk now to someone who is going to be on the red side of the city, Mr. Steve Nicol, former Liverpool defender. Steve, very good morning to you.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, very well indeed. Mr. Parry's been sort of trying to apologise for Everton a bit earlier on in the show.
Not
saying
at
that,
all.
Things are going to pick up for them and things are going to go better for them. They're scoring plenty of goals. They're just letting too many in. It's a bit of a simplistic analysis, but I suppose it's about right.
He's actually probably right. I think Everton scored loads of goals.
See, this man on my left here tries to deride me, tries to make out that I'm lopsided in my thinking, blue-tinted glasses and all that. But to get it from yourself, from a master like you, from a man of a distinguished football professional background, to get it like that does, in fact, make my heart very warm indeed. Steve, it's going to be a sensational Liverpool-Everton derby because both of them have blown up and underperformed in the first 4 weeks of the season.
Who's the dog support, Steve?
There's only one thing I want to tell you, is that when I went to Liverpool in 1981, there was a man called Mr. Phil Thompson who was coming back from an injury. And I was playing in the reserves against Everton, and he told me, we do not lose against these people. And that's his exact words, these people. And I would love that Liverpool players think the same way, because as far as we're concerned, it's these people. We don't want to lose against them. We don't like them. We support everybody in Merseyside, but when we play against them,
Everton
we
fans,
don't
Steve?
like them.
Yeah, Steve, is that dog at Everton?
Actually, there was actually a couple of Evertonians came over the garden, and the dogs have just chased them away.
Excellent.
Yeah. Steve, that 1981 injury spell for Phil Thompson, that was the time, wasn't it, when he used the spare time he couldn't use to be playing football to go off and model for the front of the Concorde, which was being redesigned at the time, wasn't it? Because his nose was very similar shape.
Well, actually, we used to say...
Yeah?
We actually used to say...
Yeah.
How do
Yeah, go on, yeah.
You've killed me, you've absolutely killed me.
Yeah.
We used to say...
Killed you, good. Yeah, go on, mate. Yeah.
Killed me. Listen, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Phil Thompson absolutely indoctrinated me in the fact that we don't like Everton.
Yeah, that's right,
And ever since that day, every single time we stepped on the field against Everton, we want to beat them.
OK, but you were going to tell me a story about Phil Thompson's nose, weren't you? Hey, I made you laugh.
Oh.
Yeah. Hey?
Well, we used to say, how do you make Phil Thompson's nose 12 inches long?
Yeah, go on.
Fold it in half.
Fold it in half. I love it.
It's very harsh, that. Very harsh.
But I'll tell you what, hey, let me say something.
Yeah.
Phil Thompson was the single person that told me that we do not lose to Everton.
Yeah.
And I would love that the Liverpool players of today had that same outlook.
Yeah.
Because you can talk about Liverpool hating Man United or anybody else, but Everton is problem.
Yeah, but
we have to beat them.
Thing is, Steve, in 1981, Everton were running into the greatest form that the club's ever had, and you must remember Graham Sharp lashing one past Liverpool, and I think it was 84 or 85 when we beat you at Anfield. It was a classic derby and a classic goal that finished it. Were you playing in that one?
Well, do you know that saying about a squirrel always finds a nut?
No, I don't.
That was one of those times because for every one of those, there was 4 victories.
Yeah.
So we used to love playing against Everton because you know what?
Yeah.
We always used to beat them.
And recently that would be true, isn't it? It's also this is the fixture that's seen the most red cards of any fixture since the Premier League started.
Well,
20 red cards,
and most of those are Steven Gerrard getting sent off.
Well,
I tell you what, you look at Everton Liverpool derbies. One of the favourite things I ever saw, and I always remember, is there was a ball. I think it was 82, 83. It might have been 84, and it doesn't really matter. There was a ball in the middle of the field. Peter Reid and Steve McMahon went for a ball.
Yeah.
And both of them went to kill each other.
Right. and
they actually didn't kill each other, but they absolutely mangled each other.
Yeah.
And they got up and they shook hands, and that was brilliant. And that's what the derby's all about. It's about killing each other.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's good fun.
Yeah.
And we want to win.
what do you think the score's going to be coming up tomorrow, Steve?
We're going to beat you. There's no way we're going to lose against Everton.
Well,
Everton can defend. We can defend.
Yeah.
Everton are going forward, and they're pretty good.
Yeah.
And going forward, we're not that great. But this is a derby, and we're going to beat you. Whatever you want to,
what are the chances of Mario Balotelli? What are the chances of Mario Balotelli getting a red card?
Pretty high, I would say.
I would say that there's absolutely every chance of Mario Balotelli getting a red card. But I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
If we end up with 9 against 9, we're going to beat you because we're just better than you.
Yeah, well, you think you are, but, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, for instance, Steve, Balotelli will show levels of aggression which even those dogs of yours in the background doing all that barking wouldn't show. And that means that he's going to be the man right in the focus of the referee's eye from minute 1. He's a marked man already, in my view.
Who's got teeth? We've got more teeth than you.
You've got more teeth, have you?
We've got Balotelli. Yeah. Well, actually, Suarez is gone, so we're losing those teeth.
Lost a big set of teeth
got more
there,
teeth
mate.
than you.
Yeah, well, you say so. I'm still putting it down as an Everton victory, a classic Everton victory, because we've got to kick-start our season, and that's going to be... What better place to do it than at Anfield?
Well, I'd have to say that...
Dogs are agreeing with him,
kickstart your season...
Yeah.
To kickstart your season, you actually have to defend, and we're not good defensively.
Well, neither are Everton.
You guys are absolutely having a shocker.
Yeah, we are having a shocker, but we're scoring goals, you see. Even though we're conceding more goals than we score, we are scoring them. Believe me, I think it's going to be a classic game and the start of Everton's season. Liverpool in crisis. I can see that headline Sunday morning.
I tell you what, you can't beat Bravado. Listen, if Bravado won your games, you guys are winning.
Well, that's very good.
I don't want you lumping me in with him, Steve. I'm not an Everton fan.
You're right.
I think you better go and feed those dogs in case they attack any more Everton fans.
Exactly.
Leaping over the garden fence there.
Yeah.
Quite aggressive there, Steve Nicol, on the old Derby
thanks,
front.
Mate.
You know, we don't lose to these people, are his words. Are you going?
No, I'm not going now.
Why not?
Well, we've got live shows tomorrow night, Mike.
We have got live shows to do tomorrow.
At the Hen and Chickens, and I think the last time we did one live show, we got away at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
We're doing 2 live shows.
Yeah.
Might get away a bit later than that. I would then find it too much of a physical strain to get up to Goodison for a 12:30 kickoff.
I can imagine that.
So, sorry, up to Anfield. If I go to Goodison, won't be anybody. Well, actually,
there'll be people watching it there, won't
there? Oh, yeah, they do.
They put it on a big screen.
That's right. Well, on a series of smaller screens now because they put them in the lounges.
Okay.
In the old days, I remember in 1967. Everton were the FA Cup holders and Liverpool were the league champions.
Yeah. So it was a charity shield, in other words?
No. It was the 5th round of the FA Cup.
Oh, okay.
And I remember that because it was in February, the end of February. And what happened was, now whenever my dad took me, we used to have seats because we were quite posh, you know what I mean?
Were you?
But on this occasion, we could only get tickets to stand behind the goal. And it was played of an evening. It was on a Saturday evening at 5:30, right? I'm sure I'm right, but
it was unusual for those days, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very unusual. But the thing was, for the first ever time, they'd received permission to transmit the game from Goodison Park, where it was played, to Anfield.
Right.
So in Anfield, the whole ground was open, but there were 4 huge screens.
Uh-huh.
So the pitch was obliterated by the screens. And so over 100,000 people live watched that game. It's a record attendance, if you like. You see what I mean? And Alan Ball scored the only goal. He whipped the ball right across his eyebrows into the goal past Emlyn Hughes.
Across his eyebrows?
Yeah, because the ball went wide of the goal and he caught it and whipped it back. You see what I mean? So almost like across his eyebrows. And that was 1-0. And that was, as I say, seen on the... And my dad and I were standing behind the goal. It was a fantastic atmosphere. But these days, of course, with lounges, they just go into the lounges, sit there, have a nice meal and all that, and watch the game on a screen about the size of, your telly at home and that sort of stuff,
Right. So that would be something you could do, but we won't be able to do that because of the live show that we're doing.
Yes.
Let me just read this to you before
we
stop for a moment. Robbo in Dagenham says, Mike Parry's right about the signal, and does Mike agree with me that contact from outer space has been known for years, but governments keep it quiet? And there is life out in the universe. I look at the sky every night, and you see a lot watching for 5 hours at a time. And he says, peace and well-being to you, Mike.
Well, peace and well-being.
So he agrees with you about the satellite theory.
Well, yes, but you see, what I was talking to you about was an actual technical problem. What's our correspondent's name? What Robbo's talked about is something which is not acknowledged. It may be known to some, but it's not acknowledged.
But he's saying you're right, though. So he's obviously an expert as well.
Yeah. No, I am right. I know that I'm right. I'm not doubting that I'm right. But when he says, then we all know that there are aliens out there. I don't know that. And have you ever tried to calculate the size of space?
No.
I mean, I don't even know if it's our universe or the universe. Do you know what I read the other day? Because I read a lot to keep in touch with things. There is something happening somewhere in space which scientists are aware of.
There's almost bound to be something happening somewhere in space.
Which scientists are aware of. But it is happening 50 million light years away. Now, I mean, just think of that, Mike. Do you know what a light year is?
Yes.
We've
talked about this before.
What is it?
It's the time that it's the distance, isn't it? That
light travels in 1 year.
Travel in 1 year.
In 1 year.
Yeah.
I mean, just think of how distant that is. Multiply that by 50 million, and that's how far away they're happening in spaces. So, I mean, even if aliens set off and say, I think we'll go and visit Earth, they're never going to get here unless they've got a machine that travels at the speed of light.
Well, they might have.
Yeah, but even if they've got a machine that travels at the speed of light, the aliens on board have got to be able to live for 50 million years.
What if they've got a time machine?
To be alive when they get here. Well, we've never seen a time machine. I'll tell you about Doctor Who afterwards. Doctor Who's a disgrace in my view. That's supposed to be a time traveller. He never travels anywhere in time. He just travels to other planets where freaks are living. all these geeky freaks, doesn't he?
We've got to stop.
Why doesn't he travel back to the Civil War and find out what went on?
Why don't you travel back to the Civil War so we can get on with stuff here at Talk Sport? We are the two Mikes.
Just remember that you're standing on a planet that's evolving and revolving at 900 miles an hour. That's orbiting at 19 miles a second, so it's reckoned a sun that is the source of all our power. The sun and you and me and all the stars that we can see are moving at 1 million miles a day in an outer spiral arm at 40,000 miles an hour of the galaxy we call the Milky Way.
So now you know.
What's that?
That's Eric Idle explaining it for you.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be always look on the bright side of life, because that sounded exactly the same.
No, it didn't.
So clearly Eric Idle's only ever written one record and then done 4 different versions of it.
Actually, Eric Idle was quite prolific. He formed an entire rock band.
That was like T-Rex, right? T-Rex, old Mark Bolan.
Yeah.
God rest his soul. He died tragically and all that, and he was great.
You don't care about that. Don't pretend you care about it.
No, Bubble Rocky.
You're about to insult him now, aren't you?
No, I'm not going to insult him. What I'm saying, he wrote basically one record.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did. And then
Can you name one of his records?
Yeah, Telegram Sam.
Yeah.
And
Another one?
Telegram Sam, oh, he's the main man. What a load of rubbish, honestly. and that sounded exactly like Metal
Sounded more
Guru.
like Yosemite Sam.
No, here, Metal Guru, is it true?
No, you do know quite a lot of his songs, then.
Metal Guru, is it true? All alone on the telephone.
Right. That's enough.
Now, they sound exactly the same. Now, he did write some classic songs. Ride a white swan, da-da-da-da-da-da, ride
So
a
you've
white
got his whole
swan,
catalogue, haven't you?
well, more or less. And he wrote a great rocking song, which I first heard in a disco in London, the first time I ever went there when I was about 17, right? And it was called Jeepster. You're so sweet, boom, 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 boom. You're so fine, boom, boom, boom.
You're like an old Top of the Tops catalogue.
Everything just to be mine. And that was great. But then all the
Why
rest
is it
was
that you
just...
can only remember stuff from the 70s?
Well, I can remember stuff from
But
yesterday.
you don't remember things that we talk about last week, though.
Yes, I do. I can remember stuff from yesterday. I can remember stuff from 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I can remember all the Queen records. I can remember Oasis. I can remember...
Yeah, that's all in the past.
Yeah, but I mean, modern groups don't turn me on.
It's not about music. It's just about general stuff you don't remember.
Anyway,
you're going to tell me about trickle-down economics in a minute, but let me read you this first from Alan in Streatham. He says, Mike Parry, great minds think and talk about action and ideas. Normal minds talk about events. Finally, people with pea-sized brains talk and gossip about other people. The latter are the people you try to educate and help. Leave them to it, Mike. I'm still not sure what category Mr. Graham falls into. Take pleasure, you are in the first category. Socrates around 399 BC.
Right, that's fantastic. Is that a definition of what Socrates said?
No.
Because I tell you what...
No, it's not a definition of what Socrates said.
Right, later in the show I'm going to tell you all about Aristotle.
Are you?
Aristotle was a great thinker, a really, really great thinker who really
We've got a Monty Python song about him as well.
What, about Aristotle?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you shouldn't mock Aristotle. I mean, his level of thinking was beyond anything we've had before or since.
Really?
Aristotle, and I'll tell you about this a bit later on, but because I want to tell you about trickle-down economics first. But
He didn't know about trickle-down economics, did he?
Well, he might have done. Aristotle based all his thinking on the presence of the elephant.
Hey?
Well, an elephant needs water.
Everybody needs water.
Right, so, but an elephant is a big animal. So, in the first place, the elephant goes to water. Because it's such a big animal, it has great difficulty getting down on its front legs and getting its face into the...
Well, it doesn't need to, it's got a trunk.
Excuse me.
That's why it's got a trunk.
Excuse me, I'm about to explain, right?
All right.
It didn't used to have a trunk. This is the point.
No, you're saying it evolved.
Exactly. So I'm saying. So he gets down and tries to get his face into the water.
Why didn't dinosaurs have trunks then?
Well, because they had very long necks. They didn't need trunks. They had very long necks, so
Well,
they were okay. Yeah, they did. They all did.
Triceratops didn't have a long neck.
Well, a Triceratops was a flying dinosaur.
wasn't.
Well, it used to.
No, it didn't used to fly.
Look, just shut up and let me
was
get
the
on.
thing with the
So
three
the
holes in the-
elephant can't get down at the water edge. So over a few thousand years, it develops a trunk.
And how did Aristotle know all this?
Well, he studied it. He studied it to find out why an elephant was like an elephant.
Well, how do you explain woolly mammoths?
He invented the same principle, but
But woolly mammoths had trunks.
No, yeah, I know, that's the same principle. Look, what he invented, Aristotle, and I know this because I've read up on it, I read up on all the great philosophers.
Yeah, but where did you read up on it?
He
The
invented...
dandy.
No. He invented a principle called conditional necessity.
Oh, yeah.
And what that is, Mike, and just try and follow this if you can,
I'll
because
try.
I've got this ingrained on my head.
On your head?
No, in my brain. If your goal is X, for which you need tool Y, then Y has to fulfill the condition Z to meet your goal, okay? So, what he did was, he studied elephants, right? And this is the way it works in an elephant. The elephant needs to breathe, right? That's factor X. So it needed a nose, which is factor Y, but it was a heavy, slow-moving, water-loving creature. It lived in swamps originally, by the way, and because it was so heavy and cumbersome, it was always running the risk of falling over in swamps and all that, it actually got to point Z, which meant it developed a snorkel-like nose, right? No, what are you laughing
I've never heard such rubbish in my life.
No, it's the principle of the elephant.
Absolute rubbish.
Honest to God. And for that reason, we now know that the elephant was an aquatic animal to start off with. It had to be to get in the water to obtain water, and became a land-based animal instead. It evolved from aquatic to land-based animal.
I've never heard anything so ridiculous.
Did you know that a
in all my
hippopotamus
life.
was the first animal ever to swim?
Was it because it was an amphibious animal?
No, it was because, well, yeah, it sort of sits in water now. Hippopotamus sit in water all day. Yeah, kind of amphibious, yeah. But the reason that the hippopotamus could swim first was because it had such huge lungs. So when it fell in the water to start off with, it didn't sink. And it didn't sink because the air inside its lungs kept it afloat. Right?
So why didn't its legs become fins then? Like seals?
Because it didn't... only because it only swam a little bit, and then it stood in rivers for most of the time. That's all a hippopotamus does most of the time, is sit in the river. If it gets out the river, you're in trouble because it's got the most dangerous mouth of any animal, much more dangerous than a crocodile or a tiger.
How much time have you actually got to do this stuff.
No,
I mean, most people haven't got time to study this rubbish.
Things. Now,
but excuse me, to go back to the woolly mammoth scenario. Woolly mammoth, right?
Yes.
Was the same shape as an elephant.
Yes.
The same size as an elephant, maybe bigger.
Yeah.
It had more hair than an elephant.
Yeah.
So there was already a beast before the elephants came along, which was a prehistoric beast, if you like, which they're still finding now, which already had the physical makeup of an elephant. So why would an elephant then suddenly become...
Well, the mammoth didn't have a trunk, did it?
Yes, of course it did.
No, it didn't. It had half a trunk, if you see what I mean.
No, it had a trunk.
No, not really.
There's one in the Museum of Natural History.
Yeah, I know, but that's a skeleton, so you can't tell what
No,
flesh...
they've reconstructed it.
What flesh, you know...
They've reconstructed it. I'd rather take the word of the Natural History Museum than yours.
It had on its skeleton.
It didn't have a short nose.
By the way, you know that will only go for about 250,000 at auction. Do you know
What?
that? The skeleton of the mammoth, which is going into a museum somewhere.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it went at auction for about 250 grand. I would have thought that would have been worth about 10 million, wouldn't you?
Well, I suppose there's not much call for a woolly mammoth skeleton, is there?
I only want to know. Well, apparently it's going to be bought by a very wealthy hotel owner, you know, in the Far East or in India or somewhere like that, and he's going to put it in the lobby, in the entrance hall. But I mean, I would hate to walk into a hotel and see some filthy old skeleton, you know, in the lobby there, wouldn't you?
I don't think it's good for a hotel, no.
I don't. I'd run a mile. I'd go.
There was a guy
hotel.
the other day who bought... did you see the guy that bought the flume from the swimming pool in the local town leisure centre with 50 quid? You know those kind of slides.
Why? Where's he put it?
Well, he's put it in his garden. He's got a big garden down in...
Has he got a swimming pool?
In Suffolk somewhere. I don't think he's got a swimming pool, but he's got a massive garden.
So it's like a helter-skelter for his children or
Yeah,
something?
but with water, yeah.
Oh, with water? Where's the water go if he hasn't got a swimming pool?
I don't know. Maybe he's going to put a swimming pool in. But it only cost him 50 quid, was my point.
50 quid, yeah.
Because the local leisure centre was selling it off.
I don't know about that, mate. Anyway, just to get back to hippopotami...
I've got a much better definition for you here of conditional necessity.
Oh, yeah?
This is conditional necessity made simple. If we are to have a sandwich, it is necessary to cut up bread and have a filling.
Right.
That's more likely to be easily explainable than the mammoth's nose.
It's not very scientific, though, is it? I mean, that is, you know, just, to me, a load of drivel. I've given you the scientific definition as arrived at by Aristotle.
Well, you weren't going to talk to me about Aristotle. You were going to tell me about trickle-down economics.
Well, this is what I'm trying to tell you, but I'll just finish up by telling you about the hippopotamus. All great swimmers study the physiology of the hippopotamus in order to enhance themselves as swimmers.
Yeah.
And do you
Because
know
all
what
those
they study?
Olympic swimmers, they've got the same physique as hippopotami, haven't they?
No, well, no, the thing is, what they try to do is they try to study the breathing technique of a hippopotamus because its lungs are so big. Because a swimmer, an Olympic swimmer...
You just said they stand in rivers.
Yeah, I know, but they didn't used to. They used to sort of jump in them. But anyway, the point is...
What is the point?
A swimmer moves through the water more quickly if there is no oxygen in its lungs. Because if you can imagine...
He's water more quickly if being chased by a hippopotamus as well.
Well, I'm not going to react to that nonsensical, you know, little intervention just because you can't understand what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is, can you imagine if a boat was chugging along with two airbags attached to it, it would slow the boat down, wouldn't it? So what you do is you get rid of all the air, and that, in a human being, the air is held in the lungs.
That makes you sink.
No, it doesn't make you sink because it doesn't make you sink for the same reason an aeroplane doesn't fall out the sky. If an aeroplane didn't have any engines, it would fall out the sky. But because it's moving...
If it was a glider, it wouldn't.
Look, don't be so pedantic.
I'm not being pedantic. I'm just pointing out the obvious.
Well, but it still comes to ground, doesn't it, eventually?
Only if you wanted to. You could glide around forever if you want.
No, you couldn't. Not unless you hit a hot air pocket going up. But anyway, the point of the story is an aeroplane stays...
What is the point of the story?
Well, because you keep interrupting, I can't get there.
I just keep pointing out the truth, that's all.
Right. An aeroplane stays up in the air because it's got engines to push it through the air. A swimmer stays on the surface of water because it's moving. And if the swimmer stops, unless it was in the Dead Sea, the swimmer would sink. But one of the reasons... It's absolutely true. And one of the reasons that a swimmer gets through the water more quickly is because, Olympic swimmers expel all the air from their lungs to make sure that there's minimal resistance from the water on their skin because of the air inside their body, which is kept in the lungs. OK, got it?
I've got it, but it makes absolutely no sense at all.
Well, that's because you can't understand it.
The guy that agrees with you about the satellite stuff has sent it in another text. He says, I'm a big fan of the 70s, and the Bowie film Man Who Fell to Earth was true. He says, I've met many who have visited. I'm watching the sky now in the back garden with the radio on, the door open. One night a being will join me. And Mr. Parry knows these things are true. He has the gift. So Robbo in Dagenham says that he can tell by the way you speak
Yeah.
that you've got the same gift as him.
I certainly believe I have a gift.
One day somebody from another world is going to come down into Robbo's back garden.
Oh, really?
And start listening to the radio. Might even send us a text, perhaps by satellite.
Nice, very nice, good.
What do you make of that?
I look forward to that. And if it is by satellite, it might be interrupted.
And
by
don't
those...
make fun of Robbo either, because
I'm not making fun.
Listener.
I'm not making fun. Believe me, anybody who's got an expansionist mind like that, even if I don't agree with it, is very, very welcome to listen as long as they like.
Very good indeed. This is TalkSport
just
Extra
before we
Time.
go on,
Yes, go on.
Just before we go on, can I just say this, Mike, about the Ryder Cup, right? Now,
Yeah.
on our internal TalkSport TV monitors, right, in the
Yes.
studio here...
The internal,
Yeah,
what was it we call it? The internal monitor.
Yeah, the internal TV, TalkSport TV monitor. I'm seeing left, right and centre, Ryder Cup, Ryder Cup, Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
Now, look, it's a magnificent competition.
Yeah.
We've got a first-class team up there, Alan Brazil, Georgie Bingham.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the European golfers.
No, Bob. Yeah, well, them as well. Bob Bubka. But our coverage team is going to be fantastic, sensational. Everybody's wrapped up in it. And, of course, they should be.
You've missed somebody out, haven't you?
Who's that?
Rupert.
And Rupert Bell. Oh, yeah, excellent man, Rupert. I love Rupert to bits. He's such a great Britisher. He was in the British Army. He was a major. He's fought, really, really dangerous and wicked people. And, if it wasn't for people like Rupert Bell, we might not have our liberty these days. And I mean that absolutely sincerely.
Right.
So we've got Rupert, we've got Bob, we've got Georgie Bingham, Alan Brazil, and whoever else is on the team, because I'm sorry if I've missed you out, but it's great.
Yeah, tough if you've missed you out.
Yeah. But my point is this. That the theatre that surrounds the Ryder Cup is just phenomenal. I mean, the other day, when they were arriving, now, here, in 1980, I think it was, right, so it might be 1981, I did the Pope's visit to Ireland.
Yeah.
And it was so historic, Bishop of Rome, you're home, and all that. Actually, I'll tell you a funny story about it in a minute.
Was that the Polish guy?
Yeah, he was, yeah.
The one that got shot?
And the goalkeeper. He was a goalkeeper in Poland before he became Pope, I mean, it's quite a career changer, isn't it?
The current guy has got quite a close association with the football team in Argentina, hasn't he?
Yes, he has, yeah, that's right, yeah. But anyway, the Pope, who used to be a goalkeeper, decided he didn't want to be goalkeeper anymore, so became Pope, which is dramatic. But a
bit like David Icke.
That went the other way around, didn't he?
Pope as well, but Pope of his own world.
Yeah. But anyway, so the Pope announces he's coming, and his favourite trick was to come down the stairs on the plane and kiss the tarmac. So Aer Lingus send this plane over to Rome to get the Holy Father, and then I remember on all the TV screens in the press centre at Dublin Castle. And then we all rushed outside. What are we looking at? We're looking at, there, it's the Pope's plane. I mean, it was people were on their knees, and Hail Marying and all this kind of stuff.
Do you remember when the old Pope left, when the Puff of Smoke came, or before the Puff of Smoke came, and they followed it was like the O.J. Simpson chase, where they followed the papal helicopter taking him out to some place of retirement where he was going to go somewhere in the Tuscan Hills.
Exactly, but I mean, that's modern technology. This is old technology. So anyway, the point I'm making is, I was switched on Monday this week, and all of a sudden, I'm looking at this aeroplane, wondering what that is. Is it the President of the United States of America? No, it's the American Ryder Cup team flying into... Where did they fly into?
I presume they flew into Edinburgh, didn't they?
No, St Andrews, didn't they? What's that airport called in Scotland between Edinburgh and Glasgow?
Well, there's
another one.
There's Prestwick.
Prestwick. I think it was Prestwick. I think it was Prestwick, yeah. And all of a sudden I thought... And then, ever since then... Now, the theatre that surrounded the announcement of the pairs today... it was like watching the London Palladium. Yeah. This huge stage.
Well, they've created this big event that has to last for more than 3 days, isn't it? Because if it only lasts 3 days,
that's right,
they don't get their money's worth.
But look, it's going to be fantastic and all that. But I think I'm probably representative of millions of people saying, can you play golf
Just
now?
get on with it,
Can you get out on the tee and start playing and all that kind of stuff, And it will be terrific. Look, let's read some... I love these. I love the tweets, by the way. Send a tweet. Keep sending them, kids. I'm Mike Parry 8. And Mike is at IROMG. And just in case you're wondering, that stands for the Independent Republic of Mike Graham.
That's right.
What an ego? What sort of an ego must you have?
That was the name of my show.
Well, no, no, it's not.
It was the name of my show.
It's called either Extra Time when I'm not here.
Before I did Extra Time, the name of my show was the Independent Republic of Mike Graham.
By the way, people regard it as a bit of extra time when I'm not here. And then when I'm here, it's the two mics, you see. When it's two mics,
it's on Extra Time.
At the two mics.
Yeah.
So that's fine. But anyway, I love this one here from Michael Burke. That's what he calls himself, but it's not his real name. He says...
How do you know it's not his real name?
Because he's put his real name in his handle, which is Mick Burkus. Mick Burke Senior. Oh, no, actually...
So his real name's Mick Burkus, is it?
No, it's Mick Burke Senior.
I think you should go with the first name, Michael Burke. That sounds
Michael
about
Burke.
right.
It sounds like it is his real
He
name.
used to be a weatherman.
But that's what I thought, yes. I thought he'd taken on... Anyway, he's got a picture of himself wearing sunglasses. Are you going to be wearing sunglasses on stage tomorrow?
I'm not telling you.
Because you don't like the glare of the lights, do you?
I found it better to wear sunglasses, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it's a bit
It looks
poncy,
cooler as well.
bit poncy. Anyway, this is a great one because we can relate to a guest we had on earlier. It sounds like Mike Parriate has gotten Aristotle confused with vodka bottle. I love that. Aristotle confused with vodka bottle. Never heard so much nonsense at 2 a.m. before, and I've been to the pub already, he says to you, Mike, at IROMG.
Yeah.
Well, all I would say is, Mike Burke, thank you for tweeting. You are confusing me, if you're talking about vodka bottles, with our first guest on the show tonight. Who was
Steve Nicol?
Steve Nicol.
I think he was just celebrating a bit early with the result that's going to be
No,
from the Liverpool-Everton game.
I tell you what, any suggestion that Steve has, been liberating his stress in any way today is not true. He's just very excited about the forthcoming.
Maybe it's just the way it was. The sound was bouncing off. The sound was bouncing off the satellite signal. It could have sometimes messed up with the sound of the voice.
We call that a corrupt cross-Atlantic signal.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it was.
Corrupt. He was definitely corrupt.
No, it wasn't corrupt.
Here's one from David.
Cross-Atlantic.
David says, what is Porky on about? Aristotle based all his thought on a modification of Plato's theory of forms. And another one from Mayor Domino, who says, of course Porky knows more about mammoths than a Natural History Museum. He's never wrong, remember?
Yeah, well, I'm very rarely wrong because I study my facts. I mean, Aristotle, for instance, expounded a famous theory on four causes.
There's another one, because you carry on, but I'll read you another one in a minute, which is very funny. Apropos your theory of hippopotami, it says here from Marty, tell Mike a hippo can't swim, it sinks to the bottom and walks along the riverbed.
No, it tried to swim. That was the very point.
So it doesn't swim.
It did swim.
So if say, for example, any great Olympic swimmer decided to copy the hippopotamus and its form, basically he'd be on the bottom of the swimming pool crawling about.
No, you don't know what you're talking about, honestly. You don't know what you're talking about.
Incredible.
Right, got another one here. This is from Neil, and he says, to the two Mikes, I bet Mike Parriate only has the best CD of T-Rex.
You have the best of, because you've only got the best of everything, haven't you?
He says, old Porky's stuck in a time warp and he sings like an alley cat. Well, I think that's terribly unfair.
And there's a great picture that's been sent in by Catherine, which is a picture of some hippopotami, I should say, in a circus. They're all like standing on each other's backs, like the proverbial circus elephants. And she says, yes, they look just like Michael Phelps, don't they?
What's that?
You know who Michael Phelps is,
no,
don't you?
I don't know.
You don't know who Michael Phelps is?
Is he the lead singer of... No, isn't he? What?
No, he's one of the greatest Olympic swimmers of all time.
Oh,
the American guy.
Yeah, Michael Phelps.
In between Olympics, he likes to toke on the old ganja pipe.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. But Michael Phelps, of course. I thought you were talking about the old Thorpe guy. What's his name?
Torpedo.
Yeah, big feet.
He's had a few problems in recent times as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, read out some more then.
Here are old Daz.
What's his real name?
Don't know. Daz Evans. Darry Levens, it says here. I don't know. Anyway, he says... what are you laughing at?
That's just ridiculous.
Well,
the way that you can't actually manage to read out a tweet is astonishing.
Well, it's too small on my phone. Right, he says...
Get a bigger phone.
He says there is a conspiracy theory around that Mark Bolan is still alive, but there's all sorts of conspiracy theories, aren't there? Elvis is still alive.
Yeah, Jim Morrison's still
alive.
Funnily enough, there isn't one about Janis Joplin still being alive.
Do you know what? We worked with a reporter at the Daily Express called Peter Hardy.
I remember Peter Hardy.
He only had one eye, right?
That's right, yeah.
But he was a very bright boy, Peter. He
ended up doing a lot of skiing stuff, didn't he?
Well, he became a skiing PR when,
Yeah.
you know, we all reach an age in Fleet Street when actually it becomes surplus to requirements. You and I transferred to radio, where, of course, we're not surplus to requirements. And
not yet, anyway.
Not yet, no, that's right, yeah.
It's almost tomorrow.
Heading down that slippery slope, yeah. But, no, you're absolutely right. And and he was a very, very good skier, despite the fact he only had one eye.
Yeah.
It wasn't his fault he had one eye.
Did he only have one leg as well?
No, he had two legs. How could he ski with one leg?
You can ski with one leg, people do.
Of course you can, but you can't become proficient at it. But
have you not seen the Paralympic skiers?
But he was a very bright boy because he went to Oxford University and he qualified. Now it was the summer of Love, 67, and he goes off to Mexico. And I don't know why he went to Mexico first, probably to study the Aztecs or something like that. But he always his plan was always then to go up the coast. Perhaps he went to find drugs or something. There's a lot of drugs in Mexico. And then
well, he wasn't going to go skiing there, was he?
No, of course he wasn't going to go skiing there, you fool, if you listen to me. And then he was going to go up the West Coast Highway, right, and go to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because that's where it was all happening, obviously.
Haight-Ashbury.
Haight-Ashbury, that was the corner of two streets.
Yeah.
One was called Haight, one was called Ashbury, and that was where hippiedom actually flowered,
Yeah.
you know. For
Very good word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very well done.
So anyway, he hitches a lift.
You've seen the time, by the way.
Yeah, all right, in a minute.
Why do you start these stories when we're about to stop? We're going to stop now, and you're going to have to finish the story afterwards.
This is a great story.
Well, it may be a great story, but you've got to do it in tune and in time. And if you were driving a bus or you were ever running a taxi service, you'd be useless
but I'm
at
not.
it. Yeah,
but
you said you wanted
taxi
to.
service, I wouldn't be entertaining millions of people.
No, but you said you wanted to.
That's what you would have done. I wouldn't be bringing what I describe as colour and joy to the world.
No, you wouldn't. That's a good idea, isn't it? Let's gang up and get him a taxi service. This is Talk Sport with the two mics. Coming up next, we're going to talk about relationships.
If you're going to San Francisco, be sure to wear some flowers in your hair. If you're going to San Francisco, be sure to meet some lovely people there.
Can you stop? Can you stop now? Please.
It's a new generation.
Please stop. Please stop. It's quite late now. It's like 20 past 2 in the morning.
I'm so glad John, our technical director, put this on. I love that song, don't you?
Yeah.
I remember as a kid seeing Scott McKenzie standing in the studio, top of the pops, with flowers in his hair, singing this, and I thought, I've got to go.
Did you?
Well, no, I was only about 7.
Right.
I was only about 7 or 8 or something like that, you know. And I thought, when I grow up, I'm going to go. Because when you get there, it's all, you know, free love. I didn't know what love was, actually, but I mean...
Well, no, because you told us you were a pretty deprived child. Your parents didn't even like you very much.
No, but it sounded good. But I mean, looking back on it, it must have been free love, free ganja, you know, but off there all the time.
Well, you know, it was a great... Have you seen that Scorsese film about George Harrison, which you must see if you haven't seen it? It was put out in 2 parts.
I was reading about that today because George Harrison's LPs have just been remastered digitally and put out as a set by his son, Darnie.
Yeah, OK, well, his son's in this movie, and Scorsese did this fantastic sort of... It was done for HBO originally, but he talked about going to the Summer of Love and hating it. He said it just was awful. It was the most awful thing that you'd ever seen. And everyone was whacked out of their brains.
And they were all
weirdos. And they all just wanted to give him drugs.
Yeah, they wanted to give him drugs, and they started talking to him about mystical things and interpreting Beatles songs for things that they didn't really mean and all that kind of... Yeah, he did, I remember that, yeah. He couldn't stand it, he got out quick. But let me get back to Peter Hardy, because this is quite a good story.
No, you can't get back to that.
I've got to.
Well, just hold on. We'll tell that story in a minute, because we've got somebody waiting to talk to us. Lisa Daly is in Sarasota in Florida, and we've spoken to her before. She's a relationship guru. She's got her own TV show, and she gives lots of advice out, which is very good. And last time she was on, I think she was able to help you with one of your problems. But the reason we're talking to Lisa today is because there was a big survey done about who should pay for the first date.
Right.
And in this day and age, of course, I know you're a bit of a chivalrous person.
I certainly am.
In this day and age, a lot of women said that they should be paying for it. Lisa, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, and thanks for having me back.
Not at all.
Yeah,
well, we enjoyed
Lisa.
it so much the last time, we thought we'd better get your view on this. The survey that was done here basically pointed out that a lot of women are now not very comfortable with, when they go out on a first date, sort of allowing the man to pay. What's the etiquette from your perspective?
Well, I'm actually sort of old school when it comes to who should pay for the date. I think whoever invites the other person out should be the person to pay. Whoever's hosting should be the person to pick up the check. That said, a lot of women feel like there's some, sort of quid pro quo that's required if a guy pays for a date, that they're going to be expected to provide other services at a later time. And
or even the same night.
Right. Well, that's what I... When I say it at a later time, I mean like an hour and a half later.
Yeah,
but
right.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
Lisa, I'm very old-fashioned about this. You say you're old-fashioned. I'm even more old-fashioned. If a woman comes up to me and says, "Oh, you know, you're my dream boat, and do you want to take me out for dinner?" And I say, "Yeah, okay," I would always insist on paying. In the whole of my life, Lisa, I've never let a woman buy me a drink, pay for dinner, pay for the entrance to a movie house, pay for anything that we've done. You know,
How about bail?
Sorry,
Has anyone come up with that?
That's some cheap crack. Ignore that, Lisa. I think he's been on the laughing gas. And I
think that's lovely, though. Not the laughing gas part. The chivalry part is a wonderful, lovely thing. And that's actually what women tell me that they want.
Well, there you go.
So
you see?
You don't think it's a bit sexist, Lisa?
That's what they say that they want. But the thing that's really interesting is I think we also have this pressure to, the whole thing that we need to have equal standing in the workplace and in society, and that there's some pressure there, like, oh, I can pay for my own dinner, thank you very much. So certainly I understand where a lot of women are coming from with that, but I think just when it comes to romance that we have to not worry about being so politically correct.
Yeah, I totally agree. I went out with a lady once, Lisa, who was the daughter of a millionaire. I mean, a very wealthy man.
And £1 million in those days was a lot of money.
Oh, a lot of money. He ran a company which was internationally famous, like Formica or something. They made a load of wood and all this kind of stuff. You know, they lived in...
Formica's not wood.
It is. It's panels. It's panels of wood.
It's like fake wood.
Well, whatever. And they lived in a very famous road in London called the Bishop's Avenue, known as Millionaires Row. So I took her out for dinner. I said, "Where do you want to go?" She said, "The Hilton." Now, the Hilton is a very famous hotel in London on Park Lane. And in those days, I was earning about £17 a week, you know, as a young...
Oh, it was 1955.
No. It was in the early 80s, you know. And when we got to the Hilton, I said, a couple of cocktails prior to dinner. I think the cocktails cost more than I was earning a week.
Trader Vic's, I was going to say, about 10 quid then.
Exactly. Right. But anyway, nevertheless, Lisa, the point is, I put myself into penury, organised a loan to pay off the credit card, and still wouldn't let her pay, even though she's a millionairess.
And how did that all go?
Well, not well.
Well, it's not just. I'm concerned about your how you're going to be, whether or not you're going to have to eat cat food in your retirement years.
Yeah, well, that's true. It was 2 years. 2 years before I took anybody out again.
Funnily enough, he does eat everything out of a can.
Right. It's very sweet. Now that said, when you're faced with this sort of chivalry as a woman, it's your responsibility not to say, "Gee, take me to a restaurant that's going to cost more than your rent." So. There should be some fairness there. Yeah. And maybe she just had such a perspective that it just didn't even occur to her that everyone else would not be able to easily afford that type of a dinner.
And by the way,
the clue should have been that beaten up old wreck of a car.
No, hang on, excuse me. I was about to say. No, hang on, Lisa. I was about to say.
They asked you to remove it from the front of the Hilton because they thought it was a bomb.
Now, you think that's very funny, don't you? But actually, funny enough, Lisa, that my car did have something to do with the fact that it didn't go well, and it was nothing to do with my relationship with this lady. But when I took her home, and I had a very modest car in those days, I turned into her driveway, which was like a road. It was so big, and because I wasn't paying attention, I ran into the back of her father's Rolls-Royce Corniche, which was parked outside the front of the house. It wasn't there when I went on earlier, so I wasn't expecting to see it.
No.
And that didn't... I mean, the problem is my car fell to pieces. The Rolls-Royce was hardly scratched.
As you can tell, Lisa, the other problem with going out for dinner with Mike Parry is he never shuts up and lets anyone else talk. Now, Kate Partridge is here with us because she's got the misfortune of having to work with us tonight and keep us informed of everything that's going on. Now, Kate, having listened to Mike Parry and his ways, would you go out for dinner with him?
Well,
she's been rendered speechless.
Yes, I have been rendered speechless about that. I like his attitude, actually.
Thank you.
I do.
He's got a better car now, I have to say.
He really have to, wouldn't he, if he wrecked the last one up?
Yeah.
But I actually like a chivalrous attitude because, absolutely, I would never ask a guy out.
Yeah,
absolutely. Never.
And what if you were out for dinner with some guy and he said, it's a first date, shall we split the bill?
It's the last date I'd ever go with him.
Really?
Good for you.
Right.
And if he paid
really
for the
leave
date,
a bad taste in your
and
mouth.
if he paid for the date and took you home, would you be expecting to take him upstairs for a coffee? I don't mean a coffee.
Just for a coffee.
Hang on.
I'm really old-fashioned about stuff like this, to be honest.
I've
got to be honest. I'll answer that, actually. I'm really old-fashioned about things like this because I think how you start out is how you set the tone for your relationship.
I totally
and I think
agree.
depends what you want as well.
right.
I think if you...
He doesn't really want a relationship.
Well, why would I take a beautiful young lady like this lady in our studio out with me if I didn't want a relationship? Are you
can't
mad?
remember her name, can you?
Of course I can. It's Kate.
Yeah. Kate what?
Kate Partridge.
Oh, very good.
Oh,
He's
thank
read
you
it
very
off
much.
like
See, but I didn't want to call you Katie in case you thought I was getting sort of too familiar already. You know what I mean?
Exactly. We're still a
And
Do you
gentleman.
like being
isn't
called Katie?
My mum calls me Katie.
Does she?
Well, there you go. You see.
So,
Right.
yes, very
Okay.
familiar.
Anyway, we sorted
What do
all
you mean
that out.
anyway?
Well,
Kate's still speaking.
yeah,
So what? So when you get to the, so when he drops you at home, you
Well,
say,
if I liked his company and I thought he obviously was the gentleman and I trusted him, then
Exactly.
yes, I would. But yeah,
Exactly.
But there are always boundaries, I think.
yes,
Yeah, I agree as
I
well.
think you
my
should
world
always
there
be a
are.
lady if he's a gentleman.
yes.
Absolutely. You
Good
make me
luck.
s-
Good
make me
luck.
say-
Absolutely. Well,
Go on, Lisa. Give
I
us
was going to
a
say there's
last
an
word.
interesting. Oh, I was going to say there's an interesting study that came out that actually said that the sooner that women sleep with a man, the less likely they are to be satisfied in that way later on in the relationship. So it's actually a little better, just statistically, to kind of hold off in the beginning.
How long
that
for?
you're-
How long for?
3
well,
months.
just a month or two is all it really
A
takes.
month or two.
That would depend on the intimacy.
Harry could be dead by then.
Excuse me. Sorry,
This man's in a desperate state.
Sorry, what sort of a show we having tonight? Then let's take the Mickey out of Michael. Is this?
Yeah, that's the same show we do every week.
Oh no, I'm on Mike's side this time. I think.
Thank you very
yes,
much
he's,
indeed.
Well,
good
I'm
to be a
delighted
gentleman.
that you guys are
And-
getting on so well.
And you know, when
Leave the room.
when a relationship turns from respect to physicality and intimacy, it's got to be at the behest of both parties.
Well, of
on
course
a,
it has.
On a time scale.
What's the alternative?
On a time scale to be decided by them, all right? Okay, you get it? You wouldn't know anything about it.
No.
This fat lump next to me wouldn't know anything about it, Lisa. Who just blunders in, you know, and...
Lisa.
Hey, fancy your
Lisa,
logo,
thank
my
you.
love.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Lisa Daly there, relationship cure. I think she's worked wonders. You know, you guys could have a date coming up the way things are going. You want to
Well,
ask her out now, or
she
should we
may-
just go to the news?
Her lucky day might have happened.
Oh, look at
Breaking news, the first Mrs. Parry has just come into the studio. And she's about to deliver the real news very shortly. This is Talk Sport. That's a bit more modern than the Summer of Love, that one, isn't it?
And what's that?
I don't know, it sounds like the B-52s.
The B-52s.
The B-52s.
Are they named after a military aircraft?
Yes.
Well,
I don't
yeah,
believe anything else is called a B-52.
That's not normal,
They
is it?
were from Athens, Georgia.
Athens, Georgia. Well,
Which was a real hotbed of music in the 90s.
And it's also a great military base down in Georgia as well. They've got great military bases down there near Atlanta.
Do you know what the band comes from? Athens, Georgia.
Athens, Georgia?
Yeah.
I tell you what, Elton John's got a house there.
Has he?
Yes.
Well, it's not him.
No, I know it's not him, but he's got for some unknown reason, he's got a house there, and temperatures get up to like 95 degrees in Athens, Georgia.
Well, there's a lot of great music
very,
coming from
very
there, that's
hot.
probably why
And
I
what's
got
the
it.
name of the other band?
R.E.M.
R.E.M.?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Because, you see, I thought the guy you were talking about before was R.E.M.'s lead singer. What's his name? Michael Phelps.
Not...
Didn't you say... Well...
No, not Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps is the swimmer.
Swimmer, sorry, but the guy who's the lead singer of R.E.M. is
Michael Stipe.
Michael Stipe. There you go. See, I wasn't that far away. And do you know what? Do you remember when they
Michael
played
Stipe.
it? No,
You started doing it to me now. I get everybody's name wrong.
Michael Stipe.
Michael Stipe.
Do you remember
Let's
when
get
they-
Michael Stipe on Skype.
Do you remember when
and
they
ask him about Athens, Georgia?
They played at Wembley a few years ago in some sort of charity concert, or something like that. He came on stage and he was singing, you know, "Losing My Religion." It's a great song, you know. Even I know that. And he had a Lone Ranger mask painted on his face in blue. Do you remember?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, and he looked so weird that Andy Townsend rang me up and he said, "Have you seen this?" I said, "No," and I switched it on and I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
I've got a great story from Andy Townsend, by the way.
Oh,
but
good.
I'm not going to tell it here. I'm going to tell it tomorrow night because it's actually not for a radio audience.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Don't think I haven't been doing my research on you, Porky.
Hope you're not going to embarrass Andy Townsend.
No, I'm not going to embarrass him.
Oh, you're embarrassed.
He's the one that told me the story.
You're going to try and embarrass me?
Well, you might be embarrassed by the way the story's told.
Nothing embarrasses me. Look, let's get back and finish the San Francisco story because our listeners want to get to the end of it. So
I want to get to the end of it too, so we move on.
So Peter Hardy, as I say, Oxford student, then goes off on a gap
One
year.
eye. Off to Mexico.
Off to Mexico, and then he's coming up the road to San Francisco. And on the road, there's some stopping place, okay? And he's hitched this lift in this Dormobile. Literally was a Dormobile camper, you know.
VW bus.
Yeah, VW bus. And they stop at some stopping place, you know, and everything's cool, hey man, you know, free love and all that kind of stuff. And the guy's coming down the other way. Said, OK, Pete, good to see you. You know, we like English people and all that. He said, if you get up there, look this person up. And he gave him a note and said, she's a chick who's, you know, full of fun and all that. You know, she likes English guys. You'll get on with her. So Peter gets up to San Francisco, and it is just off Haight-Ashbury, and he thinks, you know, this is a really trendy district. I'm not sure whoever's going to answer the door is going to want to see me.
Yeah.
Knocks on the door, woman answers, little woman, dark black hair, not terribly good looking, but full of fun, very vivacious. An English Ford A40 car parked outside. Remember those?
I do.
Tiny little things. Went in, and he said, hello, I'm Peter.
Was it Austin A40?
Austin A40. What did I say?
You said Ford.
Yeah, Austin A40, thank you, yeah. And I'm Peter, I'm from England. Who are you? She said, Janis Joplin. And he shacked up with her for... He was due to go home and start a job, but he shacked up with her for the next 6 months. Drove her around in the A40 to various concerts. She wasn't at all well known then.
This was before she got the Mercedes-Benz, presumably.
Exactly, yeah. Well, did she sing, Lordy, won't you give me a Mercedes-Benz?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That was in an advert recently, and obviously for Mercedes-Benz.
Well, it wasn't written for the advert.
No, oh, wasn't it? Oh, I thought it was. Anyway, the point of the story is that he drove her around to all these little venues. A bit like you and I, Mike. You know, we started little venues like the Head and Chicken in Highbury, which is a lovely theatre, by the way.
Well, maybe you should find some kind of Janis Joplin type figure.
Maybe.
That could be your muse.
Anyway,
maybe it could be Kate.
He leaves her at the point where she gets a recording contract, right?
Yeah.
He goes back to England and starts whatever job he was doing. It was in newspapers, it was like the Times
It's not
or something
the end
like
of the story,
that.
then?
No, well, what I'm saying is, 6 months later, she's a world superstar because she's appeared at somewhere like... what's the great concert up in...
Was it Altamont, maybe?
New York, you
Woodstock?
know. Woodstock or something like that. She's suddenly, you know, become world famous and all that kind of stuff.
She was at Woodstock.
Was she?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he tells everybody, you know, about 6 months ago, she was my girlfriend. I was actually sleeping with her. I was in the same bed as Janis Joplin. And nobody believed him and all that. And then she phoned him in the office. She called and said, hi, are you coming back? And all, you know... And of course, 3 years later, she died. Because she was one of those who died at 27.
So did he get back with her? Yeah, she was 27.
Yeah.
The 27 Club, as they call it.
He went back over to see her, but I mean, and then she wanted him to stay and, you know, the love of my life and all this kind of stuff. You know, man who changed my life and, you know, he gave life a new perspective. And he said, no, I've got life in England. And a few months later, she suddenly died. It was a tragic story, but that's a great story, isn't it?
It is a great story.
It's a great story about Janis Joplin,
It is a great story.
Even people who are modern these days know who Janis Joplin was.
Modern people?
Yeah, modern people.
What, you mean those different sorts of people that wander the streets that are different from you and I?
No, what I'm saying...
Modern people? What are you talking about?
I'm saying people a little bit younger than myself, you know... Who
well, like everybody else.
Who grew up in a different era, even they would know Janis Joplin. She is a legendary pop figure.
She certainly is. Matthew says this, what about the song Get It On, Bang a Gong from T-Rex? It was a big hit, and also Children of the Revolution was popular.
Yeah, but they all sounded the same, I agree.
Anthony, hang on a minute. Anthony says, will Porky ever finish a topic he started?
What?
The Wally.
I've just finished it.
You have just finished it?
Yeah, I'll do Bang a Gong for you. Bang a gong, get it on,
was it
bang
the other way
a
around?
gong.
Wasn't it Get It On?
Get it on, bang a gong, or whatever. But I mean, that's how it sounded. And the other one, Metal Guru, did you say? Was it Metal Guru?
No, you said that.
Oh,
Children of the Revolution.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And you can't stop the children of the revolution. No, you can't.
John just told me that...
the children of the revolution.
It was called Bang a Gong, that song in America, because they thought Get It On was too rude.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, both phrases were in the song. Bang a gong, get it on, bang a gong.
But it was called Get It On.
Children of the Revolution, when did you last hear that played live?
Live?
Yeah, live, yeah.
I've never heard it played live.
Well, I tell you where I was watching some concert at Wembley. It's one of these charity concerts.
Well, how long ago?
Well, I think it was the anniversary of what was the Band-Aid? I think it was the 30th anniversary of Band-Aid. Band-Aid. So when was Band-Aid?
Well, they did the remake of Band-Aid, didn't they? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but they did
a couple of years ago.
I think they did a concert to celebrate it. Anyway,
right, maybe.
Point of my story is Elton John's on the stage, you know, and he's done all his bit. And then that Pete Doherty guy comes on. It's the first time I'd ever seen him. And if you remember, he came on the stage.
Was he with the Libertines?
I don't know. I'd never heard of him before. But he came on, scruffy-looking individual, you know, horrible, greasy
That's pretty good
hair.
coming from you.
Oh, no, horrible, greasy hair. And he came on, and for some unknown reason, he had one of those throwaway lighters in his mouth. like like he was smoking it. It was bizarre. He came on, and he was supposed to sing. I can't stop the children of the revolution. No, and Elton John was accompanying him. So Elton John's playing away, and this Pete Doherty wouldn't take this cigarette lighter out of his mouth, so he couldn't sing.
Right.
He was just mumbling. Sounds delightful. Honestly, and he was off his head. I think.
What were you doing there anyway?
I wasn't. I was watching on telly. It was live on telly.
Right.
It was live on telly. I wasn't there. And so, look, if I'm damaging Peter Doherty's reputation by saying he might have been off his head...
I'm not sure he's got that much of a reputation left, to be honest.
See, this is the original.
It's the real one.
Yeah. So anyway, Elton John suddenly gets up from his piano, not only keeps playing it, he starts singing it and trying to get Peter Doherty on the piano. Big Dog just wandered off stage. But that's the time I heard it. But you see, this sounds like Metal Guru, Something Man and all that. They all sounded the same. Who was the other guy in T-Rex?
Mickey Finn.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Mickey Finn, of course, is a name for somebody spiking your drink, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a Mickey
Finn. He
played
the drums a bit like yourself.
Well, did he play anything? That's the point. Did he play anything, or was he just his soulmate? What I mean?
I think he was his soulmate as well.
He did. He played the bong. Yeah. Like this. This is all you could hear from old Mickey Finn standing at the back playing the bongos.
I was wearing a white suit.
Actually, he didn't play the bongos. What are drums called when they're big drums?
They were
not
sort of
bongos.
kettle drums, weren't they?
No, they weren't even kettle drums. No, they were. They
were like bongos, they were just longer.
No, yeah, but they're called something else. Bongos are you put between your knees. And these
drums...
they're
still bongos.
No,
bigger.
They're not. No, they're not.
Bongos.
They're definitely not bongos.
Anyway, let me read you a few things.
Right.
Davey is a Sunderland fan. He says on the text 81089, 2 mics, you should watch a film called The Fourth Kind. It has actual footage. Make your own minds up about the encounters. See, you're building quite a fan base of people who think there's a lot of aliens out there. Derek in Pencaith says this, Mike, if Porky wants to bring colour and joy to the world, he can start by not trying to sing. Whoever said he could sing needs medical treatment. And another one. Who's
questioning who's singing?
Derek, that is in Pencaid.
And he's questioning me singing?
Yes.
Oh, I'd hear him sing. I bet he's a member of some Welsh miners' choir or something like that. And considering that all the mines in Wales closed 30 years ago, should have taken their choirs.
To get nasty.
Should have taken their choirs with them.
No need to get nasty.
If Derek was a member of a Welsh miners' choir, then it's no wonder they're extinct.
All right, finally, here's one from someone who doesn't give a name. If Porky doesn't stop singing, I'll be forced to shoot my radio.
No. Well, I've seen people do that before now. I haven't seen him do it, but I've heard about him doing it. Right, Big Geordie says, brilliant listening, guys. Love your 5 hour special. That's very kind. Thank you very much indeed. Calls us Laurel and Hardy.
Well, don't just read out the ones that are nice to us.
No.
Well, I'm
just reading them in sequence. Calls us Laurel and Hardy. And let me tell you, Geordie, old MG is the fat one. So that was Hardy, wasn't it? Right, one here. OK, guys, you did the height comparison a few weeks ago. I think it's time now to get the scales out and do the big weigh-in to find out who is actually the heffalump in your partnership. I think that's a very good idea. I wouldn't mind that at all. Right, how about Bale Pure Class? Mr. Parry would need a personal stepladder if he was up on, if you were doing stand-up comedy.
That makes no sense to anyone.
Well, I'm trying to work it out.
Well, you've got to give it a sort of an introduction if it's about something we've talked about earlier.
Somebody says here, have you guys ever done stand-up comedy on stage? If you did, Mike, talking to you, old Porky would need a stepladder to get up to your height, which is very cruel, but I don't mind. You
can take it. Anyway, listen, it's that time again because your story has gone on now for about 45 minutes.
Right.
And coming up next, we've got yet another guest. It's Dr. Chris Winter. Right, he's going to tell us all about sleep because he's a sleep specialist and neurologist from Charlottesville. And
excellent.
He's going to tell us why there are some people who actually wake up in the middle of the night. They're not really waking up, they're still asleep, and they start eating food.
That's fantastic.
Extraordinary stories. Coming next.
Incredible.
In the village, the quiet village, the lion sleeps tonight. In the village, the quiet village, the lion sleeps tonight.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We're the 2 mics. There will be a podcast available, of course, a little bit later on iTunes. We've talked a lot about this song in the past, Mr. Parry. I don't know whether you remember, because you thought it was written by somebody that it wasn't written by. But incredibly, and this is how clever they are behind the glass. Do you know who was singing that?
Who was singing that? That was based on a poem by Rudyard Kipling, wasn't it?
Let's get into the antecedents of the song, because we've been down that road. But who do you think
I don't
was
remember
singing?
going down that road.
Yeah, we did. We talked about where it was originally coming from, an original kind of
Right,
African
and the singer
folk song.
Well, it could
It's
be one
an
of a
unusual
million.
one, but
Could be one of a million singers.
It could, but
it's no
because
good
of
me
what,
guessing.
all right, well, because
Give
of
me
what
a
we were
clue.
just talking about. It was about what we were just talking about, a band we were just talking about. It was Michael Stipe from R.E.M.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
That was.
Not Michael Phelps.
No, that was...
You're going to get so confused.
That was Michael Stipe, was it?
Yeah, it was,
oh, well.
from R.E.M.,
well,
which is a brilliant find by the guys back there.
Excellent.
But let's talk to Dr. Chris Winter, because an incredible story that I read a little bit earlier on this week about a guy who confessed to waking up in the middle of the... Well, I say waking up in the middle of the night, sort of getting up out of bed in the middle of the night, still sleeping, but not just sleepwalking, actually going into the fridge and eating something, and in some cases actually cooking something and eating it.
Amazing.
And apparently all still while in the state of sleep.
Amazing.
So Dr. Winter is going to explain how this could be possible.
Excellent.
Dr. Winter, very good morning to you and welcome.
Thanks for having me again. It's great to be back.
Yeah, Doc, it was great to have you on the show. Thank you very much indeed.
Why call him Doc again?
Oh, anytime.
Well, because he's called Doctor.
And you just said that as if that's the end of the interview.
No.
Yeah, great to have you on again, Doc. Thanks very much. Good night. We haven't even started.
Doc, it's great to have you on. All I'm doing is welcoming you. My ignorant friend on my left, who has no social graces whatsoever, will now conduct the interview.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yes.
This is a remarkable situation, but I'm told not particularly unusual, Dr. Winter.
It's not. Now, my population is a bit skewed, but we see it on a fairly common basis. Sometimes patients are to some degree aware of their eatings at night, but a lot of times they're being sort of snitched on by their spouse.
Right. So they get discovered in the middle of doing it, as it were.
Yeah, one case I remember very vividly was a woman who was getting up and eating very unusual things from the kitchen, and the whole thing came about because she was accusing her family of making a mess in her kitchen every night. And at one point she woke up and there was food and cooking chocolate and flour all over her nightgown, and she started to figure out that she probably was the culprit.
That's incredible, that, Doc, honestly, that somebody could do that. Now, from my point of view, I've got a very dodgy heart, right, because I've got... I've forgotten what I've got now.
You've forgotten what you've got, haven't you?
But I've got...
It's acute...
it's dilated cardiomyopathy, right?
It, yeah.
Now, that means that my heart works at about 1/3 of the efficiency of a normal heart. Now, if I was getting up in the middle of the night, Doc, and eating without knowing myself and going back to bed, I'd put an incredible strain on my heart to digest that food and would be in great danger of dying from choking on my own vomit because the food wasn't... No, it's true.
You don't have to be so graphic.
No, because my food wouldn't... Hang on, I'm just being factual, because my food wouldn't be getting digested. And even people with normal hearts must be putting themselves at risk of indigestion at the very least, and perhaps something worse.
Well, as Nigel Tufnell once said, you can't really dust for vomit. But, the thing of it is... that was a Spinal Tap reference.
I see.
He hasn't seen most popular films, I'm afraid.
No,
Dr.
that's
Winter.
fine.
I think when you talked about choking on your own vomit, that was a central theme of the movie. But anyway, the biggest problem with these conditions are that people gain a significant amount of weight. I mean, they often eat items that are high caloric value. They're not completely aware of what they're doing, so it's sort of a fourth meal that's completely vacant to them in terms of their knowledge of it. And people can consume some very unusual and dangerous things. There have been individuals who've eaten raw meat, cigarette sandwiches where a person will put truly cigarettes on a piece of bread and eat them.
What?
So that's the issue.
Is that an actual case, Doc, that somebody puts cigarettes on the sandwich and ate them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another thing you mentioned too is that individuals are getting up and they're cooking foods. Well, if they light their oven, they're not always the best at turning the oven off when they go back to bed. So there's dangers of fires and all kinds of things during the night.
So this is obviously a sleep disorder, but is it driven by a hunger or a sort of psychological need for food in some way, or is it driven by something other than that, and it just so happens that the eating is a byproduct of it?
It can be both. And there's actually two different forms of eating at night. There's sort of what you're referring to is, sort of getting up and eating without knowledge of it. It's sort of a variant of sleepwalking. But there's also something called sleep-related eating, where individuals feel the need to eat in order to fall asleep. So either they have to have a sandwich right before they go to bed, or if they wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, they're incapable of getting back to sleep without eating. Now, they're completely aware of it, and oftentimes there are significant psychological aspects to this problem. It's sort of like an individual needing a blanket or a teddy bear to go to bed. These individuals need a foot-long submarine sandwich.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, surely, Doc, if somebody puts food into their system and then tries to go back to bed, aren't they aware that they can't sleep because the digestive system is battling to try and digest that food? They feel that their stomach is full. They feel bloated.
But they haven't actually woken up, though. That's the point.
Yeah, but they would wake up then and think, "Why do I feel like this?" Wouldn't they? And then, you talked about the woman who had the flour all over her clothes and all that. Well, surely she knew from that moment on that she was actually the culprit, nobody else, and therefore she should have taken steps to make it stop happening again. Like, for instance, she should have locked her bedroom door and hidden the key somewhere that she couldn't find in her sleep, so she couldn't get out.
Well, that's what they'll often do, is that they'll set up mechanisms to keep themselves from being able to access the food. They lock the pantry and give the key to the husband, and he wears it around his neck or something like that. But the point you're making is a good one, in that our bodies don't do anything by accident. So our bodies are sort of tuned to digest well at breakfast, lunch, and dinner times. And when you start introducing meals suddenly at 3 o'clock in the morning consistent of, raw meat and egg whites, your body is a little bit taken aback by that and can have a lot of difficulty digesting it properly.
Yeah.
So how do you cure somebody who's got?
Well, you have to put a lock on the fridge.
Well, no, that's
don't
not
you?
a cure, is it? That's just preventing you from doing it.
Well, there is no cure. There is no cure.
Why don't we ask the doctor?
Well, I'm telling you, he will endorse what I just said.
Right,
There's no cure,
is
there,
there
Doc?
a cure, doctor?
Well, the cure typically comes from doing some sort of sleep evaluation and determining what it is that's actually waking the individual up. It's like sleepwalking or sleep talking.
Yeah.
Usually
so there is a cure,
there's an unusual arousal from sleep, and if you can stop that from happening, the behavior goes away too.
So there is a cure, in other words?
There is, yes.
No, that's not a cure.
Pill, but
that doesn't sound like a cure to me, Doc.
He's the expert. Why are you questioning him?
Well, because that sounds to me like a theory. Has anybody ever been cured on that basis?
Oh, absolutely. No, I have a woman that would pull her own. It wasn't sleep eating, but it was like she would pull her own hair out at night. So, I mean, there's a lot of.
Mike Parry's been doing that as well, I think, hasn't he?
No. Hey, that was funny. That was funny.
There's people who have sex at night and don't remember. People who get out in the car and drive places and don't remember it. They're all sort of funneled through the perspective of, if you can figure out what's waking them up, like sleep apnea or seizures or restless legs at night, if you can cure that problem, the manifestation of it goes away quite easily.
Yeah, actually, Doc, funny you should say about people who have sex at night and can't remember it. That's happened to a lot of sleeping partners of Mike Graham in the studio with me, except they weren't asleep when he had sex with them. They could just never remember it, full stop.
Thank you very much indeed. I
love that.
Or were they trying to forget? Were they actively trying to forget?
I think they were trying to forget.
Yeah.
It's more like they were trying to forget. Dr. Winter, a pleasure as ever. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thanks, Doc.
You're very, very disrespectful to a man who's an expert in this.
No,
he runs the sleep specialist and neurology department of this clinic in Charlottesville. And you're telling him there's no cure. He then tells you there is a cure. You say then that's bunkum and that he's making it all up.
No, I didn't
say that.
I didn't. I said it's a theory about a cure.
But he's cured people already.
Look, just get this right, Mike. I understand the medical world because I've been at the sharp end of medical problems.
Yes, you have.
Unlike you.
Yeah.
Unlike you.
I've been in many hospital situations.
I've had to face my own mortality.
I know.
I've had to face my destiny.
You really should be dead.
Well, it could. That could be the case. But what I was saying.
You don't seem to look after yourself very well.
Excuse me. What I was saying to you is there is no cure for cancer. Unfortunately,
there is
in this
for
world.
some forms of cancer.
But I mean, per se, there's no cure for cancer. But there's lots of theories about how cancer could be cured. That's the only point I was making to the doc, who's an expert.
Well,
neurology is a
different.
massively complicated science.
But this is a sleep
massively
complicated.
Sleep disorder. Do you know why it's so complicated?
Would you like me to talk for a moment?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
He's saying that it's a sleep disorder which can be treated like any other sleep disorder. Like sleep. Have you ever sleepwalked in your time, in your life?
Well,
Never ever?
No, and hopefully not. It's a nightmare to sleepwalk. Because, I mean, the doc's absolutely right. Suppose I went into my roof garden and then decided to walk off the edge or something like that.
Well, I mean, that would be a worry.
It would be a huge worry. A huge worry.
But have you never sort of something woke up and find yourself somewhere that you didn't realise how you got there?
Fortunately not. Have you?
No. Not very often. I think once or twice in my life.
Yeah, I think as a younger man in drink, I have often woken up in places and couldn't remember how I got there.
Right.
You know, we all done that. But that's induced by excessive amounts of alcohol. But in the normal course of events, I can honestly... I mean, sometimes, I tell you what I do get, mate. Really, I get such vivid dreams sometimes.
Do you? Do you write them down when you wake up?
No. What would you do that for?
Well, because it'd be good to analyse them. I'd love to analyse your dreams.
No,
I'm quite good at analysing them.
I wouldn't analyse them. But I get such vivid dreams. And it's always about losing something.
Your dreams would be amazing.
It's always about losing something. Losing my car, losing my wallet, losing the key to my house, losing my...
That's all about fear.
Losing my jacket.
That's all about
seriously,
fear.
It's
all about fear.
Yes,
I'm a bit of an expert, actually.
Rubbish.
I read Freud's Book of Dreams.
And then I wake up... Right, and this is the closest I've ever got to what you're saying.
Yeah.
I actually decided to go downstairs from the penthouse to the underground car park just to check that my car was there.
Yeah.
The dream was so vivid that I'd lost my car. You know, I'd parked it somewhere and forgotten where it was, that I actually had to say to myself, I'm going to have to check and see if the car's there. And I did. I went down to see if it was there. The dream was so vivid that I couldn't find my car.
Well, we should definitely do a session on that.
Me.
We should get you on the psychiatrist's couch for that. This is Talk Sport Extra Time. You can tweet us at the two Mikes. You can find Mike Parry at Mike Parry8, and of course you can tweet at IROMG as well. Before we talk to Mr. Adam Grow, who's the host of this quiz show Cash Cab, what is it you want to talk? You want to talk about quizzes, don't you?
Not particularly. Why?
You don't want to talk about quiz shows?
Yeah, I don't mind talking about quiz shows.
Well, why have you got a guest on quiz shows?
Well, that's your choice, not mine. But what I'm saying is, you don't want to trap me into this idea that, you know, because I beat you on all my specialised subjects, despite the fact that you gerrymander
it's not a question of beating
the result. Anyway, earlier in the first hour, we talked about Everton-Liverpool and Phil Thompson.
Yeah.
And a few people have said I was a bit unkind to point out that Phil Thompson has a very big nose. I even made a joke that at one stage he was interviewed by the people who manufactured the Concorde.
You did say that.
To model it, and that's a joke, Phil. Of course it is, and you and I have spoken about it before, had a bit of a laugh, and I know that you don't take offence. But the audience are getting in on it. Stephen sends me a tweet saying, Porky, if Phil Thompson fell over, he would strike oil. Now, it's very cruel and very unkind, but it just shows that it's not me personally having a go at Phil. It is a general sort of... no, well,
I mean, I think it's one of those. It's a bit like when you used to work with Andy Townsend. It was an in joke. He didn't seem to mind about it, did he?
No, Andy always took the mickey out of himself by his nose. Yeah. I don't know what the stories you've got about.
Well, you'll find out tomorrow. You'll find out tomorrow at the Hen and Chickens. Turn up for the 7:30 show, and you'll hear it there.
Well, if I find it to be detrimental to me in a way that embarrasses me or holds me up to ridicule,
well, I don't know if you've ever done anything embarrassing.
The future relationship on live shows, mate, could be under threat. Believe me.
Now, you said that you didn't really want to talk about quiz shows. You're not that interested.
I'll talk about quiz shows.
Well, let me read you something that you sent to me earlier in the week.
Right, okay.
What was your favourite TV game show going down through the ages? Have you ever applied to go on one? I always get at least 70% of the answers right in Mastermind's general knowledge.
Yeah, but I do.
I would have won Millionaire, and I can answer every question on things like Deal or No Deal.
Yeah.
But I've never understood Pointless because you just don't get it. And then you wanted to talk about a friend of ours who used to continually watch Jeopardy in America.
Yeah. Do we have Jeopardy in this country?
Well, I
think
it's
been shown in this country.
I think it's shown in this country, the American version. I don't think it was ever a British version.
I tell you
Jeopardy.
what, you know what I'm talking about. It was the wife of a working colleague in America. And they had a house upstate, didn't they?
They did.
What was it? What's the name of the town?
I don't know. It was something like Mohunk or something.
Yeah, something like that. And they in the end they left
the Catskills.
Yeah, the Catskills, that's right. We used to go up there and play golf because there are 2 golf courses nearby, which are really nice. But the point of my story is that the problem was it was under snow from October till March every year. And so you either played on the winter greens or you didn't play at all.
Well, you didn't play when it was covered in snow. I mean, you can't, can you?
Well, you can. You can thrash around. They scrape a bit of...
I mean, you play if it's a bit frosty, but you can't play if it's actually thick snow.
Anyway,
because the orange ball that you play with actually gathers to the snow.
Yeah, it
so
does.
by the time you try and get it in the hole, it's too big to go in the hole.
Yeah, that can happen. I have had that happen to myself. I don't mind playing in the snow because I like the cold weather. But they eventually went to... they decided when our pal retired they sold up there, gave up the apartment in Manhattan, and went to North Carolina.
That's right.
Was it North Carolina?
I think it was North Carolina.
Yeah, and that's
because they became golf obsessives, basically.
Golf obsessives, and it was all. Well, no, he did. I mean,
she started playing as well?
Did she?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
in parts of North Carolina, down by sort of Hilton Head. I mean, all there are these golf communities.
That's right.
And one course after another, and all these houses around the golf course.
Yes.
There's literally nothing else going on.
Yes, and do you know what? I've been researching something lately.
Have you?
And it's about golf courses in China, and in much the same way as Native Americans were herded into reservations, so that developers, who were largely sort of immigrants, from Europe and that sort of thing.
Well,
like
the whole of American sort of society
of course it is.
created that way.
But they wanted their lands for things like the buffalo and the mineral rights and the forests to cut down the trees and make fortunes and all that. And in the same way...
Didn't the Native Americans use the buffalo for their own purposes, though? Yeah, the buffalo were already on the land.
Yeah, they were, but I'm saying that they were herded off the land, so the buffalo were then, farmed by other people.
And what were they like in the water, the buffalo?
Huh?
What were they like in the water? Could they swim, or did they have big lungs? What?
Well, you see, you've caught yourself out here, because there is a water buffalo.
I know there is.
That is a specific animal.
I know there is.
And they're very good in water, OK?
What about ordinary buffaloes, though?
Well, there's no difference between a water buffalo and an ordinary buffalo.
Isn't there? So why do they call it a water buffalo?
It's got curly horns, and the ordinary buffalo doesn't have... No, it's true.
I'm going to have to look this up now.
The ordinary buffalo doesn't have it. But what's happening in China is that these developers are coming along, all these poor old Chinese people who are basically peasants, and I don't mean that in derogatory fashion.
No, of course not.
That's what they're termed as.
That's a very nice term to use for anyone.
No, they are termed as, a part of the peasant population. They've got nothing. They just, walk through a few paddy fields and this kind of stuff, and that's the way that people at that end of the social scale in China earn their living.
And you have no problem with that, of course, given your suggestion about the class system earlier.
Well, I think a country in growth as China is, hopefully their lives will soon improve. And a lot of everyone will improve if the economy grows sufficiently. But anyway, they've been herded off to be told, you've got to go, this is great land for a golf course, and they're opening something like about 30 golf courses a week in China.
Yeah.
And the local populace is having a hell of a time trying to keep up with it, because they've now been herded off into these, horrible sort of high-density, buildings and that kind of stuff, and their way of life is under threat. And that worries me greatly. I don't like to see this sort of thing happening.
But they've got huge tracts of land in rural China. Surely they're not having to displace people just to build golf courses.
Well, not a lot of the land is good land, if you see what I mean. A lot of it's bad land. And the problem with the Chinese is, a lot of them are farmers, and not necessarily in paddy fields, because that's a bit sort of specialist in special regions where it's wet all the time. But, just farming their cattle and all this kind of stuff have been pushed off to land which is like scrubland. It's not suitable for cattle and that sort of stuff. But the land formerly, the dairy land, for instance, is very, very good for golf courses, and that's what's happening.
But there was a time, when...
that's what's happening. I'm telling you, it's happening in China.
When the golf course revolution kind of happened in Europe, when suddenly it was kind of beginning at late 70s, early 80s, and they just started putting golf courses up everywhere.
We've got too many now.
I went on a trip to Ireland once, to a place called Barley Cove, which is the southwesternmost tip of the Irish islands. Southwesternmost tip, on the Atlantic.
I was going to say on the Atlantic
side, right?
Yeah.
And it was one of these press trips, and as you can imagine, there was quite a lot of drink taken. There was about 30 of us went over on the ferry from Liverpool to Cork.
Yeah.
And we had this amazing kind of
drunken escapade,
civic reception when we arrived in Cork, and most of us had been up all night, and nobody had actually slept on the ferry.
Right,
it was an overnight ferry.
Yeah, and been drinking all night.
Yeah, pretty much. And we arrived, and there was a guy.
So you're in disgusting condition when you arrived.
There was a guy called Phil Noonan. Who was the art director of the Mirror, who had come with us. He was a great guy.
Yeah.
And we had this civic reception, which was a breakfast. And in the middle of this, Phil Noonan thought we were at dinner, and he got up and actually made a toast to the mayor of Cork and to all the dignitaries that were there, and ordered a massive round of pork for everybody, because he thought it was actually dinner time, and he thought that we were, in the final course of the
Did you get the
dinner. Well, no, everybody just kind of looked at him and went, actually, we're all having breakfast, Phil.
Yeah.
It's time to sit. Now, nobody could understand what he was doing.
No.
But
I bet he couldn't understand what he was doing.
We ended up in Barley Cove.
A disgraceful state to arriving at a reception.
It was very funny.
When people have been respectful to you and shown you, great hospitality and all that, you throw it back in their face.
Well,
by turning up absolutely bladdered, disgusting behaviour, in my view.
Well, when you play golf in Ireland, one of the things you first do on the first tee, first thing in the morning, is you have a glass of paddy and milk.
Right.
The Irish whiskey and a bit of milk. And then every, sort of lunchtime you have Guinness, and it just goes... I mean, you go to Ireland and it's very much a drinking culture. But Barley Cove, they tried to sell it as this, great golf resort, and it was a beautiful place. Massive big bay and, gorgeous sort of light yellow sand, big waves crashing in. And we were staying in this hotel, and the golf course was on farmland, right? And the problem was that they couldn't get rid of the cows, and the cows were still wandering about on the golf course. So they had to put fences around the greens to stop the cows from actually walking on the greens, right?
Nonsense. I mean, cows must have got hit by golf balls and all sorts of things.
It was right at the beginning of its kind of, infancy. I don't even think it's there anymore.
It's madness.
But they put electrified fences, right, around the greens. And here's something that happened, and you'll probably give me a hard time for me. I shouldn't even tell you this story.
Right, go on.
Very late at night, I decided, because most people had gone to bed, and I fancied going for a walk down to the sea. Because I'm, a great lover of nature.
And once again, you were massively intoxicated.
I had had a few drinks, yeah. So I went down into where the golf course was to get myself to the beach, and you could hear the waves crashing in. Very dramatic. It's very romantic, actually. I wasn't with anybody. I was just on my own, and the moon was shining. It was beautiful. And somehow I got myself inside the electrified fence of where the green, because there was a gap so that you could walk through if you were playing. Obviously. Somehow I'd walked in without realising. And suddenly, because it was kind of pitch dark, apart from the moonlight, every time I tried to move in any direction, I was getting an electric shock because the electric fence was invisible, basically.
Because you were intoxicated?
Well, no, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see the electric fence.
Why couldn't you see it?
Because it was very, very thin metal wire.
Yeah, but it must have been held up by poles.
Yeah, but I didn't realise at that time, nobody had told me there was an electric fence down there.
I see. So you kept getting electrocuted?
So I couldn't find my way out. It was like a nightmare.
How bad was the electric sting?
Well, it's like the ones they use on farms. It's
like cattle prod.
It's enough to give you a little jolt. It's not enough to kill you.
Yeah.
But when you keep... every direction I walked in...
Because you were bladdered, you couldn't find the way off the green.
I couldn't find my way out.
How did the balls get on the green if there's a fence around it?
It's just a wire fence, you idiot.
No, I'm not an idiot.
You're
an idiot.
Fence.
Well, how's it held up? How's it held up?
It's got metal posts.
Yeah,
and then a thin wire.
And if a ball that you're pushing towards a green, it's a metal post. It doesn't go on the green, does it?
No, it doesn't.
So who's the idiot now?
But it doesn't stop the ball going on the green unless you're unlucky. Unless you're very unlucky.
Fool.
Anyway, I'm sorry to tell you a story that doesn't involve you. I can
no,
see
no,
you've got no interest
right.
in it at all.
No, that's quite right.
Anyway, in the end, it took me about an hour to find my way out the way that I'd come in. And it was very unnerving because I thought I'm walking in this area and I'm getting an electric shock from nowhere.
Thought you were trapped.
But I didn't know where the electric shock was coming from because I couldn't see the fence.
You were just having withdrawal symptoms from drink because you hadn't taken a drink out with you.
I got back to the hotel and they locked it all up.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me.
Worse.
And you have to...
it was quite a traumatic night.
You have to knock on the...
I had to break in, I think.
On the front door and get
I think I had to break in.
The maitre d' down to let you in. Your disgraceful behaviour. Honestly, I mean, look, that's a story, but it doesn't do any good for the reputation of former Fleet Street colleagues like me. I never behaved like that.
No, of course not.
Not when people were offering me hospitality. I never behaved like that. I never would. Really, I wouldn't.
You weren't a good enough golfer to come on these trips. Anyway, coming up, it's time to speak to Adam Groh, the host of Canada's quiz show Cash Cab.
Oh, right, okay.
Despite what you said earlier, you do want to talk about quiz shows.
Yeah, I do.
This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. Mike Parry is here. We are the two Mikes. There will be, of course, a podcast coming out a little bit later on this morning on iTunes, depending on how quickly the technical boffins managed to get it all together. But now we're going to talk about one of Porky's favourite subjects, and that is quiz shows, because TV game shows, he says, he can always work out, he can always get the answers right. He reckons he can get 70% on pretty much anything, which is much better than he ever gets on any of our general knowledge quizzes. But we're going to talk to a guy now who actually runs his own quiz show in Canada. It's called Cash Cab.
Wow.
Adam, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning to you, gents. 70%, Mike. Come on, you got to go higher than 70%.
Well, that's just a sort of general figure. If I'm really humming and I go up through the gears and, I'm in full throttle, it could be 85%.
There we go.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
tell us about your show, Adam, because a couple of guys here know about Cash Cab, but I have to say I hadn't seen it.
Well, Cash Cab actually is a franchise show. I'm the host in Canada, and we've completed 8 seasons. So it started in 2008 here, and I am, in fact, as a result of that, a licensed taxi cab driver. But interestingly enough, the show originated in London. I believe they only did it for 1 season there, and probably mostly because the knowledge to be a cabbie out in your neck of the woods is a pretty serious business.
Right.
And while getting my license as a stand-up comic and an entertainer, it was a little bit more challenging in Canada than I thought it was going to be. It certainly was only about 3 weeks of school and then passing an exam, and then we were off and running. And Cash Cab is essentially, I'm the host of a trivia show that happens inside a taxi. I'm the driver. I pick up unsuspecting passengers. They get in. They tell me where they want to go. And then all of a sudden, boom, I press the computer buttons that I've got beside me. lights on the ceiling flash, the sound effects go off, and I reveal that it's a game show that's happening, and they have an opportunity to win cash out of my pocket on the way to their destination.
That's excellent. Now, you said that it was an idea which originated here in the UK, Adam, and that is a great point, because most of the quiz shows anywhere in the world have usually been stolen or adapted from a similar show in another country, haven't they?
Because I think pretty much most of television originates in England.
Well, I mean, for instance, we have one here called University Challenge, which I happen to know was based on a CBS show called College Bowl, right? Also, there was one over in North America called Match Game, and that became, believe it or not, blankety blank in this country. There was one you had over there called Family Feud. We nicked that and called it Family Fortunes, and even Hollywood Squares in the Americas became Celebrity Squares in this country. So there's not really any new show. They just go round in circles between countries around the world, and you never quite find out who came up with the original idea and initiated these shows.
Why does that matter? What's your point?
Well, it matters because I think credit should be given to the brain that's invented the show. I mean, you've admitted that your show was nicked from somewhere else. Who invents all these shows?
Well, it becomes a franchise, so it's a legitimate nick, and then we kind of make it our own. So there's elements to the game that we have gotten permission to add to the show that aren't being done in any other version of Cash Cab in the world. So we have, a swap out with the dispatcher, get a new question. In Vancouver, when I hosted a season there, we had a bridge bonus. We have a triple play where people can triple their money at the end. And by the way, for those of your listeners who haven't seen any version of Cash Cabs in any countries, like all Cash Cabs, and this is something that my contestants still don't believe, even though I tell them 3 or 4 times before it might happen. If they get 3 incorrect answers, I pull over the cab and I kick them out. They lose everything.
And does that happen a lot?
It actually happens surprising. I figure we have about 50% losses, but that includes people who get to their destination, and then they have a choice if they make it to their destination without getting 3 strikes. They can keep what they've won, or they can go for one last video bonus question and try to double or triple their money.
Okay.
And so if they miss on that and lose everything, I call that a loss. So it's about 50-50. And honestly, if I said to you chaps, hey, you two are 2 big television producers, I've got a quiz show that I'm going to take people out and they're going to win up to, I don't know what it works out in pounds. It's probably about, 800 pounds, right? It's nothing, right? Or even less, 200 or 300 pounds. But it's the surprise factor. People think they're going to spend 20 or 30 pounds on a cab, and they end up getting, hundreds of dollars, and it's like they won $1 million.
You see, well, actually, I was going to ask you, what are those prizes worth in monetary terms? Because, of course, some of them, the famous one in America, the $64,000 question. That's where the expression originated. But what happened was, Adam, when we brought the show... I've forgotten which one it was now. We brought one over. I think it was the Generation Game, we called it over here. The TV companies in this country in the early 70s were so broke that instead of offering money, we offered really stupid prizes.
Cuddly toys.
Yeah. We had a conveyor belt that went past, through 2 open doors,
Awesome.
a Teamaid, a cuddly toy, a set of Pyrex bowls. And the trick was that you had to remember what they all were to win them, but people were so amazed that of all these silly, stupid little prizes they could go home with, they didn't care about winning any money.
Well, some people want the big prize, and they're like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and, all these big competitions where it's the $1 million prize. But then sometimes, especially if you're talking about a trivia show, people really just like the notion of, A, being on television or on the radio, if you're just a regular chap, and also just to demonstrate their trivia savvy. So, for instance, I hosted a radio show here in Canada, which you can get a podcast on. It's called News Hounds. It was only a 10-episode series on the radio. I had 3 contestants in studio with me. We had no prizes. We gave away silly prizes, and people still were banging down the door to get on the show. They just wanted to prove how much they knew about the news.
I'm sure it's the same in the States. I mean, you have professional sort of game show contestants, and it turns out that if you actually pay attention, they've been pretty much on every single game show there is. And, you worry sometimes that some of them are kind of stunted up.
Sure.
But you must have people who just say no occasionally, Adam, don't you? Do they just not do you film that and then put it out, or do they sometimes say, look, we don't want any part of this, we don't trust you, we think you're some kind of maniac?
Yeah, well, when we first started the show, before it actually went to air in Canada, people were like, I'd pull over, they'd get in, I'd turn on the lights, and the cat go, hey, and they'd go, whatever, buddy, you're too sketchy. But when I explained it, originally it was made for Discovery in Canada. It's legit. I'm not trying to make fun of them. I'm trying to give them cash. Most people said yes. The only times people have ever said no in the entire history after that, and that was maybe a half dozen people, really. And I've shot, hundreds of games now, met, hundreds of people in 8 seasons. The only couple of times that people said no, once was 2 young girls who had lost their smartphones or their cell phones, and they were too confused and, they can't live without them, so they didn't want to play the game. And then a couple of times people who were by themselves, didn't want to play it because they really wanted to be on the show, but, they didn't feel as if they could carry the show. And, for the most part, when we first started, we had to make about 25%, 30% more shows, more games than we ever used, and threw out the bad ones or the ones that had technical problems. But by the time we got to like 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons, people just had either seen the show or heard of it, knew how to behave. It's unscripted, but they were fantastic contestants. We ended up getting rid of fantastic games just because we had too many, wins or too many young people or too many, whatever.
Right. So is it still going then, Adam? Where do you do it now?
We didn't make any this past summer, so for the first time in 6 summers, we didn't make any new episodes, but there still are some in the can, as they like to say, that are yet to go to air. I'm hoping for more, but in the meantime, I'm pitching a new, hopefully international quiz product for myself, which, will go into development, and I'll be out there with something new. But I would obviously, Cash Cab, it's so much fun. If you do watch it, it's as much fun as it looks like it is, so I would definitely make more if they decided to make more in Canada.
Okay. Excellent. Well, Adam, listen, thank you very much for joining us. Well, I was going to ask him for maybe a sample question for you to see what difficulty level there is, but it's so close to me giving you the general knowledge quiz, but I feel there's no need for that.
Just bring it on, man. I mean, the point is, the questions that you get on most quiz shows are so basic that I can get them. As I said, I get 70% of the questions right on...
I don't believe you.
...on Mastermind.
I don't believe you.
In the general knowledge question. I get half of them right on their specialised subjects. I know more about the specialised subjects than some of the people who are specialised, okay?
Everyone has heard your answers to the quizzes that we give you.
And the way that you gerrymander them. And the way that you gerrymander them.
Let me read you this from Aaron, who says, only Mike Parry could think that he's smarter than a doctor in the field of the human body. Ha, ha, ha.
No, I'm just more logical.
I'm just more logical. A guy was talking about his sleep deprivation. He says, when I was younger, I would often wake up with slices of bread under my pillow, and I would often open the front door in my sleep as well.
It's dangerous,
so people do worry about that.
Open the front door, walk out, roll in front of a bus, bang, your history. I mean, that could be bad news.
Well, it would be very bad news.
You should lock the door.
No doubt about that.
You should lock the door and throw the key away before you go to bed.
Throw the key away?
No, you should. And you know what I mean. Hide the key or something. Or give the key to somebody else.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Give it to somebody else you don't know very well. This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes. It is that time of the show when we give Porky a quiz. We've been giving him quizzes on speciality subjects over the course of the last few weeks. But, of course, because it was revealed yesterday in one of the newspapers that Wayne Rooney and his hero, of course, and Roy Hodgson like to do general knowledge quizzes while they kind of... checking out the downtime in between playing international games.
Yeah.
We thought a general knowledge quiz would be good. And also, you did say that you're very good on Mastermind, you're very good on all these TV quiz shows, particularly Deal or No Deal, where you can answer all the questions,
and by the way,
they don't have any questions.
Once again, I've been vindicated in one of my more extreme theories. I told you a long time ago that Wayne Rooney's brain is as efficient as Einstein's because
that's hardly been proven, has it?
It has been proven because of the mathematical calculation he's got to work out to redirect a ball in mid-flight and all that.
But that hasn't been proven.
It has been proven.
Would you mind not going over old ground? I've got to give you a quiz here.
Yeah, OK, but I'm just saying, you're giving me the quiz because you've read that England players, Manchester United players, get quizzed on what they're doing, OK? And I'm telling you...
No, they take general knowledge quizzes.
You can't give a general knowledge quiz to a thickhead who can't answer the questions because it's not a quiz. No, you can't. Well, look, they're not thickheads. Footballers are very bright people, very intelligent.
The definition of a quiz is somebody asking questions. It's not about how many answers are correct.
Where does a footballer's ability lie?
This is not a quiz question.
It is, because it's not in his feet.
I'm sorry.
A footballer's ability lies in his brain, not his feet.
Well, we'll find out
you're
where your
too
ability.
stupid to
we'll
understand
find out
that.
where your ability lies, because it's time for the quiz.
Right,
now,
let's get on with it.
as ever, 10 questions have been put together by our board of auditors, and they are not multiple choice. Okay. Before you do anything else, and you don't appear to have any aids with you to try and check what any of these answers are.
I don't
now,
cheat.
when the question is answered, I will ask John to play a noise which is either correct or wrong. Okay?
What do they sound like?
I can't tell you yet because it's a surprise.
Oh, I see. Some silly little gimmick.
Question number one. What is the highest mountain in Europe?
The highest mountain in Europe is in the Pyrenees, okay? And the name of it is Mont Blanc.
Oh, brilliant! This is drama in the extreme.
It's half right, because actually Mont Blanc is not in the Pyrenees.
Thank you.
So I'm only going to give you half a point.
Rubbish. Where is it then?
It's in the Alps.
It's in the Alps, that's right. Well, yeah, but the Alps joins the Pyrenees.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
Rubbish.
The Pyrenees runs through.
All right, I'll tell you what. I'll give you the whole. I'll give you the whole point if you can tell me how tall it is.
Mont Blanc.
Yeah.
13,000 feet.
Not bad. It's 15,780.
Right. Well, that's good enough.
I'll give you the point. I will give you 1 out of 1.
Good.
Okay. Number 2. What is the highest number?
What?
What is the highest number?
What are you talking about?
What's the highest number?
Well, infinity.
Well, no, that's not a number. What is the highest number that's got a name? Let's put it that way.
It must be. I think it's 0.366 recurring. What are you laughing at?
I don't know where you got that from. Let's see if that's right or wrong.
Such a stupid question.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
Well, like we're looking for 1 million or 1 billion, that kind of thing.
And what do you think it is?
Well, it's not what I think it is. I'm telling you what it is. It is a Googleplexion.
What is a Googleplexion?
A Googleplexion is the highest number that has a name, right? It is 100 followed by 100 zeros.
Well, supposing it's greater than that, supposing it's 101 zeros.
That hasn't been measured.
Well,
that doesn't have a name.
That's a ludicrous and stupid question.
1 out of 2.
I'm sorry. Honestly, I'm not going to answer any more questions like that.
All right. There are no more mathematical questions.
Ridiculous.
Number 3.
See, factual questions like Mont Blanc, I get right.
Well, that is a factual question.
Stupid trick questions about trigonometry. It's all about trigonometry, by the way. We've had a tweet here.
Don't do tweets. We're doing a quiz.
Which says that you are Trigger and I'm Roy Rogers. Okay.
Well, you're Nometry. Number 3. What is the capital of Eritrea?
The capital of Eritrea. Now, Eritrea is a newly developed country, hasn't been around for long, and therefore its capital is indeterminate.
That's not the right name, I don't think.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Oh, is that right?
It is a country in East Africa, you are correct. The capital, however, is called Asmara.
Asmara.
So that's 1 out of 3.
And how many people in the world would know the answer to that question?
It's a general knowledge quiz.
Utter rubbish. Utter absolute
Number 4.
nonsense.
I'm sorry I'm not giving you questions that you know the answers to.
If you ask me the capital of Iceland, the capital of the state of Alaska, the capital of New Zealand.
No, I didn't ask you that.
The capital of... But, I mean, Eritrea has only been a country for 3 years, you fool.
Really?
Nobody knew... I tell you what, you walk up and down Northumberland Street in Newcastle and meet 100 people and ask them what's the capital of Eritrea, not one would know.
There might be quite a few Eritreans in Northumberland.
Rubbish.
Number 4. What is the national minimum wage?
National minimum wage...
I bet you know this one, because you have to pay Mrs. Mott this, don't you?
That's a matter between myself and my housekeeper. It is £6.36p.
To call you stupid would be an insult to stupid people.
I would give you half a point for that. It's £6.50.
Well, there you go. You see, now
over 21.
That is within the.
I would give you that. I'll give you half a point.
No, I want a full point. It's only 14p short out of 636 digits. Do you know how little that is? That's 0.2%. I was within 2.
All right. Well, I'll give you a full point if you can tell me how many other categories of minimum wage there are.
How many other categories?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Categories of minimum wage.
You can only have one minimum wage.
Well, I can only give you half a point.
You can only have one minimum wage.
That's not true. There are minimum wages for apprentices. There are minimum wages for people under 21.
Well, of course there are.
So there are more then?
No. There's one minimum wage...
For people over 21?
At different graduations.
I see.
It's not different minimum wage.
You can have half a point. You got 1.5 out of 4. Number 5. What is the study of insects called?
It's something like acrophilobology.
Say that again.
Acrophilology. Yeah, I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is.
I don't think it is.
I think it's something like that.
Half-witted, scruffy-looking nerve herder.
Entomology.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing.
It's hardly anything like it. You can't just put something ology on the end.
It's an alternative name. Listen, people who are frightened of insects suffer from, well, I've just said.
What did you just say?
Acrophobia.
Acrophobia?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that wasn't the question. 1.5 out of 5. Number 6. You should get this one.
It's the same. The answer I've just given is the same. I know that for sure.
Number 6.
It's an alternative answer. Yeah.
What is the second biggest country in the world?
Do you mean by population? Do you mean by landmass? Do you mean by
landmass.
Gross national product?
I mean by landmass.
Right. The second biggest in the world by landmass?
Yeah.
That, without a shadow of a doubt, is... Now, are we calling Russia an individual country, or are we talking about the United...
I'm not going to give you any more clues.
Or are we talking about the USSR?
I'm not giving you any more... Well, the USSR doesn't exist, does it?
Well, it used to.
It did used to.
It's a big landmass.
Yeah, so did Elvis Presley. But, you know, we're not talking about the USSR.
Second biggest country in the world is... Right, I reckon the biggest country in the world by mass is Canada, the biggest, right? So that's not my answer. China's got to be a contender. Russia's got to be a contender.
You're just going to name all the countries you think might be right?
No.
You have to choose one.
Brazil's a contender, I suppose. I will say the second biggest country in the world is Brazil.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
I don't like these
It's
responses to my answer. Well, I said Canada.
You said that was the biggest.
I didn't. I was thinking aloud again.
You said it was the biggest.
Well,
1.5 out of 6. The biggest country in the world is Russia.
Well, I said Russia as well, and you just poo-pooed it and said, well, the USSR doesn't exist.
I asked you for the second biggest country in the world.
Goodness sake, I just get
turned
over here every time.
These are a sports
I said
question.
Canada. Didn't I say Canada,
yeah,
folks?
You said it was the biggest. You said it was the biggest.
Please start tweeting in and saying, Porky said Canada. He definitely said Canada.
And you also said that's not my answer.
I said not my answer yet.
Right.
You missed the yes
Number
off.
7, you should get this one. This is a sporting question regarding football. Who won the Champions League final in 2006?
Ooh, 2006. I'm trying to think where I was. Right. 2004, 2005, 2006. 2006. Oh, Didier. Oh, no. Zinedine Zidane. I reckon. Oh, that might have been Steve. No. That was earlier. Okay, 2006.
Can you hurry up? We've got another 3 questions to go.
Hang on. Wait a minute.
I'll have to hurry you.
Okay, I reckon it was an extraordinary result, and it was the was it Ajax? No, I'm not.
What's your answer?
My answer is Ajax.
To call you stupid would be an insult to stupid people.
Barcelona beat Arsenal by 2-1.
Do you know, I went to that game. It was in Paris. It was in Paris.
It was in Paris.
In Paris.
Correct.
Oh, guess what? I was sitting next to some of the players' wives.
It's a shame you can't remember it.
No. Oh,
right.
Dear.
1.5 out of 7. Number 8.
Dear.
Who starred as Queen Elizabeth I in the movies Elizabeth and Elizabeth the Golden Age? Both movies came out somewhere. Golden Age was 2007, the other one a little bit earlier.
Yes.
Who starred as Queen Elizabeth I?
Helen Mirren.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett. Do me a favour. Helen Mirren plays all the queens. We all know that. She's an absolute superstar. An English debut. What nationality is Kate Blanchett?
She's from Australia.
Australia's playing English queens. I've never heard... I mean, you know... old techno whiz kid behind the glass there has got all these, really smart rejections of my perfectly good
Do you mean the
answers.
technical director?
Sorry?
You called him the technical director earlier.
Did I?
Yeah.
What am I calling him now?
You're now abusing him.
Yeah, I'm going to the technical...
All right, listen, we've got 2 more questions getting. You got 1.5 so far.
Jerk.
You got 1.5, right? Number 9. Who is the author of the Da Vinci Code?
That's Dan Brown.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, pal. You got the right answer. You're still an empty.
Thank you.
Brilliant. You've saved yourself. You've got 2.5 now.
Rubbish.
You've got a possibility of getting your normal 35% right, as opposed to the 70 that you claim you get every time you play Deal or No Deal. Number 10.
Yep.
Can you name this piece of music and its creator?
Well, everybody knows what that is.
Yeah?
It's the Hovis advert.
Well, of course it's the Hovis advert.
Yeah.
But who wrote it?
I know that as well.
Do you?
It was Elgar. It was Elgar. It was Elgar. He wrote Land of Hope and Glory as well, I think. I think he did.
I'm sorry.
Half-witted, scruffy-looking.
There's no point in me asking you what part of what symphony it was. It was the slow movement from Symphony No. 9 by Dvorak.
By who?
Dvorak.
He's not even a composer.
What?
He's not even a composer. That is a complete and utter travesty. Dvorak, I've never heard of.
Dvorak.
I've heard of, I've heard of Beethoven.
Hit the road, Dvorak.
I've heard of Beethoven, Mozart, Wagner, Schubert, the guy who played the piano a lot.
Alan Price.
No. He was he was classical composer, but he made a lot of them.
Rick Wakeman.
No, you know what I'm talking about.
Billy Joel.
Engel, was it Engel?
Engel
Was he?
Wasn't he the guy that wrote the book with Marx?
Yeah, it could have been. Yes, think about it, yeah.
Anyway, 2.5 out of 10. Another
travesty.
miserable performance in the general knowledge quiz. Well done, Porky, for keeping up the usual standard. We will, of course, be giving another quiz same time next week on some more general knowledge.
I gave you Canada.
More general knowledge is... it wasn't your answer. It's getting very warm in here, isn't it? I think I might have to turn the heat down. Have you noticed?
I was just about to say to you, why has it got so warm?
Well, it suddenly changes.
An hour
because,
ago, Kate was complaining that it was too cold in here. Now it's too warm.
Well, that's
and
the thing.
I can't work in this sort of sauna, bath type atmosphere. So could you turn it down, please?
Yeah, I will turn it down, yeah. A couple of texts and tweets to read out to you. Steve from Sheffield, morning, Mike. Is Mike Parry able to get extending golf clubs to compensate for his short arms? Simon in Fernhurst says, Mr. Parry, you really are a tube. All they do in Deal or No Deal is open a box with a total of money in it, with a total amount of money in it. And here's one from Bob in Glasgow, says, tell Parry the musical genius, maybe it was Richard Stilgoe who played the piano a lot. What an absolute tube, but it's a great show.
No, who was the classical promoter composer who wrote most of his stuff on a piano? Schubert. It was Schubert.
Was it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Right, one here from Santosh, and he says, you guys are amazing. Thank you very much indeed. That's very nice of you. And I'm trying to find a few more here. Lauren Hardy of Radio. We've been called that by several people tonight, OK? And also... somebody sent me a picture of a load of hippopotamuses in a circus.
I've already read that one out. I showed that picture to you before.
Oh, did you?
So you can't remember what we did in the last hour.
No, you didn't. That picture there.
Yeah, I showed that to you.
Well, you didn't show it to me.
And what does it say? It says that they look just like Michael Phelps, right? It's from Catherine, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I read that one out.
Well, I don't remember reading that out. Anyway, what does it matter? Listen, keep the tweets coming, please, because it's excellent of you. And one here endorsing my knowledge of astronomy. Absolute quality, Mr. Parry. Intergalactic beeping. Yes.
I read that one out at the start of the show.
Oh, did you? Oh, OK.
Well, you're going backwards through the Twitter feed, aren't you?
I don't know.
You go the other way, and then you'll get the ones that are coming in more recently. You can tweet us, of course, at the 2 Mikes, at Mike Parry 8, and at IROMG. Now, something you want to talk about to me as well is machines, because you're under the impression, for some reason, that machines are going to take over the world, aren't you?
Well, I read a report recently saying that actually could happen, and it's not a joke. The point is that machines now are becoming so efficient, so incredibly efficient, that we're soon going to invent a machine which will actually fool human beings into giving the machines total power. Right, literally total power.
Well, this is this artificial intelligence people have been talking about for a long time.
Well, I'm not sure if it's even artificial intelligence. It's an ability to make machines more and more efficient to solve problems that man can't. And eventually, what the machines will do is the machines will turn on the humans by convincing humans, by producing data. The machines will become so intelligent that they'll decide they want to run the world. I know this sounds ludicrous, but it's not. And what will happen is the machines will start producing information to feed back to humans. The humans will then act on that information. The humans will then destabilise themselves. For instance, humans could be persuaded by machines to start taking drugs which will improve their health, but which in fact will make them complete, boneheads.
More compliant.
Yeah, more compliant. That's the word I was looking for, Mike, absolutely. And the machines will then start running the world. I mean, I know this sounds ludicrous, but it's absolutely true. From the report I've got, it says here, the quest to create artificial intelligence is usually thought of as a crankish pursuit, but according to the latest report by a man called Bostrom, Nick Bostrom.
Who's
he?
Who is he?
He's a scientist.
A scientist?
Yeah.
Is this the strength of your report, is it?
No.
He's a scientist?
No, he's top scientist.
Where is he, a scientist?
He's somewhere in America. But he's a top scientist. And
top scientist somewhere in America?
Yeah, no, just let me finish, right. The quest to create artificial intelligence, usually thought of as a cranky pursuit, but, says Bostrom, it could happen perhaps within a few decades, perhaps within a few centuries, but more likely a few years.
Really?
If it happens, it'll be the greatest change in human history. It could easily be the end of human history. His warning sounds
rather...
rather...
sure he's not been watching The Terminator, this bloke?
No.
Have you seen The Terminator?
Terminator, yes, seen Terminator, yeah.
With Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, actually, no, it bores me stiff films like that because they're fantasy
films. Well, it's all about
this.
Well, he's describing precisely what happens in The Terminator.
And anyway, it says, if we build a machine that is much more intelligent than we are to do our bidding, without taking enormous care in defining what our bidding is, it could backfire in the most spectacular way.
I think they've already built a machine that's more intelligent than you, haven't they?
No. Well, why do you find that so amusing?
It's just, an obvious thing to say.
Just throw a statement like that up in the air as though you think I'm going to get worried about it, right? Now, for instance, there's a parable in certain parts of the world about a group of sparrows who go off and find an owl chick and raise it as a servant, OK? And that's a human version of what's happening with machines and man.
Really?
Now,
you still haven't told me what this guy's qualifications are.
I'll get to that in a minute. Right, now then, Mr. Bostrom imagines creating a machine with a superficially harmless final goal to calculate pi. You know what pi is?
Pi, yeah, 22/7.
Yeah, you know what pi is all about?
What do you mean?
It's about the size of triangles, isn't it?
It's a mathematical formula.
Yeah, that's right. To calculate pi to as many digits as possible, for instance, or to make steel paper clips. If a machine was given the task to make steel paper clips, but we failed to keep check on the expanding ability of the machine, then the machine would then start turning everything in the world into paper clips, and it would be the end of humanity.
We'd never run out of paper clips, though.
We'd never run out of paper clips. Without further instructions, the machine might end up turning the entire solar system, right, not just Earth, the entire solar system and all the solar systems around it into computational material to allow it to calculate pi ever faster. Or it might smash Earth to pieces and turn everything on Earth into paper clips.
This bloke's clearly a complete maniac.
No, and we couldn't stop it.
Where is he associated with?
We couldn't stop it because the machine will be cleverer than us. Even an intelligence designed only to answer questions is not safe. It might determine that in order to complete its final goal of answering questions, it must fill the universe with its memory banks and processors, that it's better able to answer the questions it's being given, or it might just simply destroy everything in the universe that's capable of asking it a complicated question. That, of course, includes human beings, and replace them with something simpler.
Well, where is this guy?
Where is this guy?
Tell me where he's from before you start spouting off, which is clearly a load of old nonsense.
No, it's not.
I mean, people have been warning about this kind of Armageddon of computers for years and years. It has been the stuff of science fiction movies for centuries. It has been almost exactly to the plot he's described there, the plot of the Terminator, where machines take over the world.
Yeah, but hang on.
But they're not making paper clips.
Look at this. A computer that is ordered to make humans more happy, just a general instruction, right, might bypass the tricky stuff and just order us all to be pumped full of drugs. Mission accomplished. The difficulty will be instilling human moral values into a machine, and since we spent roughly 3 millennia, that's 3,000 years, arguing over what human moral values are with no end in sight, it's a bigger task than the straightforward one of making a really clever computer. OK?
No, it's not OK, because you still haven't told me where this guy works.
Well,
he might be some maniac and complete just rambling lunatic for all we know.
No.
Well, you can't tell me, can you?
Very well-known scientist.
I've never heard of him.
Very well-known scientist, Nick Bostrom. And,
is he a doctor or something?
Well, who's going to publish a book if they don't believe this guy's a genuinely brilliant scientist? You know, who would bother
People
going
publish
around...
books all the time. You've published You've published 3 books. They're all rubbish.
Is that supposed to be funny?
Well, it is.
People don't publish books if they're rubbish. Can I just tell you that? People publish books because publishing is one of the world's biggest industries. You publish a book to make a profit.
Yeah.
You don't make a profit on rubbish. You make a profit on a book which gives you information which people want to acquire, and therefore they go to W.H. Smith's or Waterstones and they buy the book, and £10 of the purchase price of that book goes to the author. That's all I can tell you. OK?
Well, I still don't know where this guy works.
You don't need to know where he works.
Maybe you can find out during the break.
You don't need to know where he works.
All right, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Coming up, because you've been giving me such a hard time about my dog, we're going to be talking about the dog and the dog behaviour with Victoria Stilwell, who's a very famous TV expert. She has a show called Me or the Dog, because you were telling me that you were appalled to see a piece in the papers this week where somebody actually allowed their dog to sleep in their bed.
They sleep
to be honest,
with their dog.
I would not do, but we'll talk to Victoria and see whether she thinks that is a good idea. We are the Two Mics. This is Talk Sport. Text us on 81089, email via the website talksport.com, and of course you can find us on social media at the Two Mics, at Mike Parrier, and at IROMG. This is Talk Sport.
I love my dog as much as I love you, but you may think my dog will always come through. All he asks from me is the food to give him strength. All he ever needs is love, and that he knows he'll get. So I love my dog as much as I love.
We are the Two Mics. This is Talk Sport Extra Time, of course. We've got lots more to do. You can tweet us at TS Extra Time at the Two Mics as well. Now, those of you who listen to the show on a regular basis will know that Mr. Parry is forever haranguing me about my dog and the way that that I treat the dog. I can tell you that I treat the dog very well. Mr. Parry will tell you otherwise, but you were very disturbed, were you not, earlier this week when you read a piece in one of the newspapers by a fairly esteemed journalist talking about her dog.
I'll tell you, it is. I mean, she's published the whole piece in the Daily Mail this week, and very well-known writer, both on political affairs and all sorts of other things. Her name's Melissa Kite, and she does a diary in the Current Affairs magazine every week. She details her life, her relationship with her boyfriend's fallen apart or it hasn't, and she's having problem with people who bashed into her car and claimed they had whiplash and all that. It's very interesting, and she rides horses. I mean, it's a very, very interesting column. I'm a great fan of hers. I'm still a great fan of hers, but I read this week that she actually takes her spaniel dog into her bed.
Yeah.
And even when her boyfriend's there, if you see what I mean. I mean, it's a remarkable piece. And sometimes she goes upstairs to go to bed and she finds her dog, the spaniel, actually in bed underneath her duvet with its little paws out, like a human being, lying there like a human being. She says she has no problem with it. She says she shampoos the dog on a regular basis, that it's not dirty or slovenly, that the dog's very affectionate. If there's a storm outside or thunder, the dog gets frightened and rushes straight to the bedroom. That every night, or most nights, she hears a scratching on the door and the dog knows how to open the door and come in, and she expects her to get into bed. Sometimes the dog gets so close to her, the dog rests its head on her shoulder and, its paws on her arm and this sort of... I mean, a quite remarkable story.
Well,
quite remarkable.
Let's talk to an expert on it, because you're quite disturbed about it. It's not something I would do, but Victoria Stilwell is dog behaviour expert, star of the TV show Me or the Dog. Let's find out from Victoria whether this is something that she would consider a good idea. Yeah. Victoria, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, not at all. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. Now, I don't know whether you saw this piece by Melissa Kite. What do you think of it? What do you because I was when you get a dog, you always have these kind of rules that I think people have made a sort of a jokey poster about it. That the dog must not come upstairs. Then we'll just let it come upstairs once in a while. It never gets on the bed. Oh well, once in a while it gets on the bed. People get very soppy with their dogs, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and she's not alone, I tell you. I mean, as a dog behaviour expert, I go into lots of clients' homes. Their dog's in the bed, their dog's on the sofa, the dog's showering with them. Even they take the dog to vacation. They say, they take the dog to work. I mean, the dog goes everywhere. It's more like it's another human being.
Well, I mean, the piece that she wrote, apart from, the intimacy of the dog being in bed with her and her boyfriend and all this kind of stuff, is that if she goes anywhere and the dog's not welcome, then as far as she's concerned, she's not welcome. You know what I mean? It's like an essential part of the family, really. I suppose also... the lady I'm talking about, Melissa Kite, excellent journalist, great narrator of her life, has told in the past of the fact that she can't have children. So is that a substitute, Victoria?
Oh, it is. It is. A lot of people who can't have children have dogs and treat them like children, but a lot of people who do have children still have dogs and they treat them like children too. So, I think that the role of the dog is changing. We used to have working dogs and they used to do jobs for us, and now they fulfill that role of companion and friend. They don't judge us. They trust us. They're very loyal. They don't care who we are, what we look like, how much money we earn. And just as long as they get love and affection, that's it. So maybe we take it a little bit too far.
Yeah, but
because I'm all for balance.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's get back to the original issue, which I wanted to ask you about. Is it really healthy and proper to have a dog sleeping in your bed almost as if the dog was a human being partner of yours?
Well, if you would talk to a doctor or a pediatrician, then probably they'd say no. But I haven't really heard of anybody getting ill from a dog sleeping in their bed. And as long as you keep your dog well groomed and clean, that's not an issue. And if you don't mind dog hair, that's not an issue. But here's the thing. If your husband doesn't like it or your boyfriend doesn't like it, it's a bit of a passion killer, isn't it? And in fact, a lot of homes I go into, the dog's actually used as an excuse. It's the best excuse since the headache. And I'm not kidding you. It really is. And in many occasions, that's it. The dog's in the bed. Oh, sorry, sweetheart, I can't do it tonight because, there's a dog in the bed.
Yeah, the dog's in the way. And also, presumably, if you let the dog become that familiar, we all get told when we get dogs that, the dog has to know that it's at the bottom of the sort of food chain and it's at the bottom of the social pack and all of that. I mean, if the dog thinks that it's equal to everybody else in the house, that's kind of potentially difficult, isn't it?
Well, you know what? That's a very old style of thinking. Actually, dogs don't come into our homes thinking, I'm going to be your pet leader. So, oh gosh, if I get in the bed, that means that I'm achieving higher rank. That's a real human idea that's been put on dogs. Dogs don't think like that at all. Dogs move to what feels comfortable for them, what feels safe, what feels secure. And what's better than social sleeping? Social sleeping actually shows trust. You're asleep in front of somebody else. And that really does show a degree of trust. So social sleeping is a very good bonding experience. And so, I have no problem with it. Now, if the dog is guarding the bed or growling at somebody as they come into bed, won't get off or growls or bites you as you try and get off, then there's an issue. The dog doesn't come on the bed. But I don't have a problem with it. But we still got to treat dogs like dogs as well, not just like kids. Let's have a balance.
I agree, and I've come across another case, Victoria, because I study these things before I speak to experts like you, so I know what I'm talking about.
That's unusual. Makes a change.
Just shut it, you. There was a case where there was a married couple, and the husband's father died. Okay. And as a consequence, it left a dog without a master because the father was a widower and the dog was his companion. So the couple take the dog in. The woman, the wife, then becomes very, very attached to the dog to the extent where the husband said, look, I think we've got to get rid of the dog. And she said, why? And he said, well, you've become more fond of the dog than you have of me. Since the dog moved in, all the priorities now steer towards you looking after the dog, feeding the dog, washing the dog, walking the dog. I'm saying now I want the dog out of the house because it's taken over from me in your affections. And she said, no, the dog's not going, you are. I want you to leave. No, seriously, I want you to leave me. I found a companion in life now with whom I feel completely compatible and can extend my love to. I get love in return. I never had that from you. You get lost. And the marriage broke up.
That's why my show was called It's Me or the Dog, because we went in cases exactly like that, where the wife turns to the husband, says it's me or the dog, and the dog wants to choose the husband wants to choose the dog, or the wife wants to choose the dog over the husband. There's something fundamentally wrong in a relationship if that happens.
Well, must be.
So when you say, Victoria, that the idea of keeping a dog kind of at the bottom of the food chain is kind of old-fashioned, why is it that? What's the advantage of not doing that, if you know what I mean?
Well, it just gives people a sort of false sense of what a dog is. I think you've got to be a teacher and you've got to be a leader to your dog, but there's the rank is sort of immaterial. You can be a really good teacher and a really good leader to your dog, but still allow your dog to sleep on the bed. And as long as you give your dog boundaries and you teach your dog how to cope in domestic life, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day, then it's fine. And, people come in and say to me, I want my dog to be really well trained to sit and come when called and stay. But you know what? I see training as just the dog feeling confident, feeling happy and behaving well in a social situation. So that, to me, it doesn't matter whether the dog sleeps on a bed or a sofa or anything. That's going to have no effect on how it sees itself within the household, as long as you are that good parent. Hey, we've got the kid analogy there. But it is. You're a good teacher and a good parent.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've got a tweet here from something called Wiggly Pups, and it says, Victoria is one of the best trainers around. We are so glad you support her. So somebody's already giving you a big up there, Victoria.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I've actually got quite a few friends that listen to this show, and one of my friends, Alex Andrews from Southgate, is listening to it right now. Loves your show, so it's a real honour to be on.
Well, that's very kind of him, very kind of yourself as well, Victoria. Thank you very much indeed for coping. Mr. Graham, who is my co-broadcaster here, doesn't always understand the intricacies of the pet-human being relationship because he's only just acquired a dog.
No, I haven't only just acquired
a dog. It's an 8-month-old Labrador, and 3 weeks, Victoria, 3 weeks after he acquired the dog, he pushed off on holiday and put the dog in kennels. How about that?
It's not true. I did not put it in kennels.
Where did you put the dog then? With a stranger?
I gave it to my producer, who had previously owned the same Labrador from the same family, and they wanted to look after him for 2 weeks.
That's a nonsense.
Victoria, that was okay to do, wasn't it?
Drivel.
That's very good. That's good. You didn't put him in a kennel.
Abandoning your dog? Abandoning your dog after 3 weeks?
Abandon the dog. He didn't abandon the dog.
Don't you think that dog
gave it to his producer.
That dog will
now
be...
you think it got confused?
That dog will now be suffering from owner recognition confusion, a well-known dog complaint.
Just ask Mike if he's ever owned a dog.
Owner recognition confusion.
Victoria, it was a delight to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Victoria Stillwell there, one of the top dog behavioural experts who I think you will find just said that was absolutely the right thing to do, what I did. So hopefully that will be the end.
You didn't give her the full facts. You gave her all this rubbish about, the chap who took in your dog, knew a member of the family of the dog and all that.
That's true.
Nonsense.
That's all true. You wouldn't understand it because, of course, you've never owned a dog. That was the Two Mikes podcast.
Yes, it certainly was. Don't forget, it's out every Tuesday and every Friday morning on iTunes.
And you can follow us at the Two Mikes.
So keep listening for more of MG's loose morals. Believe me, this boy hasn't got a moral fibre in his body.
And more of his bizarre buffoonery.
What?